No business forgets its first employee, its first paying customer, its first patent, its first earnings call, its first $1 million deal. No business forgets its first move. But for first to continue, businesses need to reimagine, reinvent, and re-equip. And no one is better than BMC at creating innovative technologies for our customers so they can achieve first after first after first.
Good morning. Morning, everyone down this end. You're a long way away from the guys up here. Good morning to you all. Welcome to our 6th UK and Ireland BMC exchange. Sincerely, we really do appreciate everyone traveling to be here this morning. I know that some of you have traveled from a long way away. And we appreciate you taking time out of your day to be here and to join us. And we really do believe today will be a good use of your time and an impactful use of your time. So thank you for being here. Having run this now for 5 years, we made a conscious decision that we would change the venue from Twickenham, the home of English rugby, for a number of reasons. First of all, we knew that this would most likely be the biggest BMC exchange we've ever had. I think that deserves a round of applause. So we knew it was going to be a bigger event than what we'd had before. We knew that we wanted to have a more central location than what we had before, just to make it easier for you to get here, and hopefully that was the case. And then, in terms of the inside track and the real reason why we moved it here, we expected that the number of customers from other countries, in particular some of our Celtic countries, who I'm good friends with, were going to show up in force. So I believe there's a number of people from Ireland here today. Is that right? Excellent. So I think we have some friends from Allied Irish Bank, some friends from Boston Scientific. Believe it or not, they're based in Ireland, partly. And some friends from other companies in Ireland. We heard a rumor as well that they were going to bring some reinforcements from another Celtic country, Wales. And I believe, get this, we've got representatives from the Welsh government here today. Is that right? Yes? Yes. Fantastic. So with the combination of the Irish and the Welsh, and then also a rumor that we were going to have some Viking invaders coming over from the Nordic countries. I believe you've got some people from the Nordics, is that right? Whoa! So the Vikings are here in strength. With all of that combined, we did a bit of a risk assessment and thought that having the event at the home of English rugby might be too much of a risk and might end up bubbling up into a scene of sport and rivalry and an uncontrollable situation. So we thought better to change it somewhere a little bit more neutral. So welcome to Waterloo, welcome to London, and welcome to this location. And we really do appreciate you being here. Seriously though, this is the biggest BMC exchange that we've had. We had over 1,000 registrations for the event, which is amazing. Over 1,000 registrations, which contributes to over 3,000, almost 3,500 registrations for this event in this country and other countries around Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So really a very powerful show of our BMC community and BMC partners and customers and the interest in having this event across EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So the biggest in a number of ways, biggest in terms of number of you that are here, biggest in terms of the number of analysts who are here today, biggest in terms of number of partners who are here today, biggest in terms of the number of executive one-to-ones, and I want to thank the executive team from BMC for showing up in force. So we have over 70 one-to-one meetings planned for this afternoon, which is the most we've ever had. And most exciting of all, biggest in terms of the number of awards that we're going to give away today to some of our customers. So that's something to look forward to a little bit later on. Okay. First of all, let me talk about our partners a little bit more. This is a show of the partners who have sponsored the event. I want to make special mention of our gold partner, Fusion Global Business Solutions. John Mohan and Gary and Sunil, I think you're in the crowd somewhere, and the rest of the Fusion team. Thank you for being our gold sponsor, and thank you for supporting the event in the way that you have. And thank you to all of our partners. I want to make special mention of Fusion in terms of the Fusion business. So this is a business that has grown from being a UK partner to now being a global business partner for BMC, operating in a number of countries around the world with over 100 BMC technical experts and having delivered more than 3,000 successful projects around the world. That's quite incredible. So just something to take note of there in terms of the credentials that Fusion have as a partner. And thank you again, John and the team, for being our gold partner. Okay, I want to welcome the speakers for this morning's session. First of all, Peter Leave, who will be speaking to you very, very shortly. Welcome to your first UK and Ireland exchange, Peter. Look forward to hearing what you have to say to us in a few minutes. Peter joins us, having been with the company just under a year. I'll say a few more words about him in a minute. Bill, thank you for coming to join us. We look forward to what you have to say. Bill is our President of Enterprise Solutions and joined the company in 2014, joining to lead the performance analytics business unit within the company, and then taken leadership role for another part of the business, which was our data center and automation and cloud business, and is now in that overall role of President of Enterprise Solutions. So welcome, Bill. We look forward to hearing from you later. And then we have a special guest speaker, Ben Hammersley, who is a futurist, who's a thought leader, who is a pilot, who is a speaker at occasions like this, and he's going to speak to us later on about the future of work. That'll be interesting. We'll find out a few things about that later on. So we're glad to have Ben here as well. Okay, we will be running our customer panel as well after the break, and I'm glad to say that Neil Greathead, who's our Vice President of Customer Success, is chairing that panel again. Thanks, Neil, for doing that. You've done it for a few years very, very well, and we're pleased that you're doing it again this morning. And we're really pleased to have three customers join us today to be on this panel. First of all, Paul Ryder from BT. Paul joins us with over 20 years of experience in enterprise architecture, enterprise IT, now CIO for a very important, very strategic part of BT, central government and police. And we've been working with Paul and his team for over a year now, helping him deliver a BMC tool stack, BMC solution stack into his part of the business to help manage their customers, BT's customers, in the government and police space. We started working with Paul just over a year ago, and we're talking initially about BT's cloud of cloud strategy, and then have ended up with a project which we're actively delivering at the moment with Paul and his team. So very excited to have Paul here today to speak with us. Joanne McQueen from News UK, really pleased to have Joanne with us. And for those of you who don't know News UK, News UK is a wholly owned subsidiary of News Corporation, responsible for publishing many well-known newspapers in the UK, the Times, the Sunday Times, the Sun, to over 11 million readers. So Joanne, no doubt, will share her experience of implementing the BMC solutions within her area of News UK. and how BMC is helping support business services in News UK to deliver newspapers and online content to over 11 million readers. And then finally, Benjamin Hawkins from Daisy. If you don't know Daisy, Daisy are one of the UK's largest service providers and business continuity providers. Ben joins us today and will be sharing his experience of BMC solutions. A very interesting story about Daisy. If you go on their website and look at some of the customers they're dealing with, which I did, I discovered that they're, one of the customers there is Celtic Football Club. Pretty cool. Celtic Football Club. And so Daisy helped that particular football club to deliver Wi-Fi services to over 60,000 fans who turn up on match day so they can go online and send lovely messages to their rivals over at Glasgow Rangers, sending all those hate mails and all the rest of it. So well done to the guys at Daisy for supporting Celtic Football Club and for that particular customer example. Okay, a couple of other points very quickly. There's an event app which you can download either by scanning the QR code or by going online and typing in BMC event. Please use the app if you can. It's very useful. It's got a map of the venue. It's got an online questionnaire which you can fill in, which will be very useful for you later on. We'll explain a little bit more about that later, but please download the app and use it. And then not only do we have more customers here than we've ever had before, but we've got more hashtags than we've ever had before. 7. So special kudos to anyone who can send a tweet with all of these hashtags in it. Whoever does that first, I'm sure there'll be a special prize for that. So 7 hashtags, please send your tweets and let us know what you're thinking about the event. Okay, I'm going to hand over now to someone who, as I said earlier, joined us just under a year ago as a visionary leader in terms of driving strategic change within organizations. He joined us having been president and CEO of Polycom and having been president of global operations at NCR. He joins us as someone who is driving a very strong strategy around innovation, and not just driving a strategy around innovation, but also a strategy around value realization and customer success, very importantly. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome onto the stage our President and CEO, Peter Leave.
Thank you very, very much. And Steve, it was not deliberate that we cut your title, but when you have a great quarter, we'll give you the rest of your title in totality. I want to start by saying, although this is my first BMC exchange in London, this is not my first trip to London, we are really excited to be here with you, and we're really excited about what's happening. And we're going to talk about that in 3 very simplistic forms that are interrelated. One is what we are hearing from customers, and that is the foundation of today. Customer's voice. That will be embedded and imbued into what you see and hear from us. And we have a lot to show and a lot to share. And you'll sense excitement. Secondly, and it's related, is what we're seeing in markets. As markets evolve and expand and transition, what that means, how that's informing BMC, and most importantly, how it's impacting what decisions we're making for our customers. And then, of course, we're excited to talk about what we're doing. BMC has been very deliberate and hard at work in the form of innovation. Innovation around new solutions, industry firsts, with an eagerness to help our customers to be first to succeed. So I'll jump in. It's been an interesting phenomenon for us because we've been evaluating markets for the past year or so. And markets have been a good guide. And here's what we're seeing and hearing. As you primarily know, enterprise IT is massive. And the scale and scope is only getting bigger. But it's changing. Today, roughly $1 trillion will be spent this year in enterprise IT. It's a big number. And when we think about that number, we try to bifurcate it in a few ways. One of which is how much of that is being spent on core business that you need to run your business, to impact your customers, the on-prem core component of our business. And roughly $700 billion of that $1 trillion is still spent in the core. And for BMC, that's important because our customers are telling us it matters. We've also got an interesting phenomenon where about 25% of that number, about $250 billion, is now being spent transitioning to multi-cloud in a variety of formats. Now, you may say, it seems somewhat imbalanced, but the preponderance of the growth of spend, about 18% CAGR, so by 2020, the number will be roughly $400 billion, is moving in the latter direction, is moving into this multi-cloud space in a variety of forms. There's also a broader subtext, which we talk about, but we don't always monetize, and that is digital transformation. Is it real? Does it mean something? And there's roughly $1 trillion as well that's being spent in transforming enterprise businesses in a digital fashion. What does that mean? That means if you grew up in New York, as I did in the 70s and 80s, you watched a company like Kodak, and Kodak was impressive. They built better cameras, they built better film. But what they missed was not a market that was shrinking, but a market that transitioned. And we all became photographers for the most part. Some of us not very capable, but nonetheless. And we didn't buy film, and we didn't buy cameras. Digitization of the customer and consumer experience in the enterprise is real. I would go further and say, for those of us who came from that era, you were often asked, what type of company would you become a part of? Well, you're going to go work for a B2B, or you're going to go work for a B2C. That was about the extent of the answer. Today, I would argue it's completely transitioned. It's not B2B or B2C, it's C to B. It's the consumer and the customer who touches business. It's an inversion. And it's an interesting phenomenon for all of us. Some other phenomenon from a market perspective that's really interesting to understand is what we are seeing as it relates to transition in the form of security. SecOps, security needs. And the pundits, for the most part, I think, didn't understand how significant that would be. And it's estimated in this same year, which is soon going to end, over $100 billion will be spent in IT in security operations, in securing your environment. And that's helped influence some decisions that we've made. Interestingly as well, it's not just IT anymore. We can't just look at it under the guise of the CIO's office. He or she, of course, has massive influence, but now the business units and the BUs are influencing that spend. And as the spend increases, more and more of it is going in different directions. And it's estimated by 2020, that same year that we see that $400 billion moving to multi-cloud, over half of IT spend will be influenced by business units. So that's great, but you didn't come to a Gartner seminar today, and you probably had enough numbers. And frankly, we don't use that extensively in isolation. We use that in the form of triangulating with what we consider the voice that matters most. And that's the voice of the customer. We have spent many, many days, hours, weeks, months asking customers informed questions. And it's phenomenal because both customers and prospects have been very open with us. And what they're telling us is they need help. And they've been very clear about where and why and what. And as we're taking these inputs, I thought it would be of value to share some of them with you. One of the first things we hear from many customers is this. We do not really know in the enterprise, in established organizations, what we have. Don't have a great gauge on our inventory. So you're coming in trying to throw more product and more solutions and more software and more stuff at us, but we need to see what we've got. In many cases, we don't know. Help us discover our assets. Help us discover our IT assets. And help us do so in a comprehensive way. Customers have also shared with us that they've spent a good amount of money on a lot of different things over a long period of time, and these disparate systems, they don't speak to each other. They don't work together. Help us automate these workloads. Help us turn all of this information into usable information. The amount of data that's coming into you and your organization from your users and from your customers is ticking up by the second. Can you use it? Is it of value? How do we automate workloads? Customers are also telling us that this transition we just discussed as it relates to markets is impacting their business and their leaders. We need help. Help us transition from an on-prem world to a cloud world, and oftentimes a multi-cloud world. Well, that makes sense. But we need to know how much it costs. We need to know preemptively, not after we make the move and find out that it was more expensive than planned, prior. And most importantly, and perhaps most salient, we need to make sure we are secure. Are we secure in both worlds? Are we secure as we transition? It's important. Customers are telling us that they need help transitioning from on-prem to multi-cloud, but don't leave us behind, because on-prem is still the preponderance of our spend in many cases, certainly in regulated environments. So we're not looking for a binary answer. We need a bit of both, and we need your help across the stack. We've also heard from customers that DevOps is important. Integrate our developers, but treat them differently because they need to be treated differently. But at the same time, we need to speak a similar language. How do we integrate that in, but ensure we have lines of separation? Customers have told us a lot, a few others. One of which is this whole AI thing. We read about it, it's in the news, it's something that's seemingly interesting, but do we actually have a real-life application with NLP, NLU, natural language processing and understanding, and cognitive capabilities and machine learning? Do we have something that actually applies to what we do? It's interesting to read about, and the futurists who speak to us and we're excited about today will probably give us more information, but how does it apply? And I think the most significant learning for us is about our customer's customer. And when we think about examples like Kodak, it brings to light that your customers also need digital capabilities. How do we help you digitize the customer experience? So these elements have been really important in helping inform us. Now, what I didn't do was an infomercial on BMC, and we certainly can. We are growing, we are investing, we are increasing our investments, and we're really excited about it. And I share that because we are not going to be balanced today in our discussion. But I don't want anyone to misconstrue that there's not a balance in the company. We are investing in our core. We are investing in our mainframe business, the only company in our world whose mainframe business has grown 9 out of the last 10 quarters. Our competitor's mainframe business is declining. Shout out to the mainframe team. We are also investing in our core. More focus on QA, more focus on ensuring defects are down, ensuring that your core business is important. I preface my comments by talking about what we won't talk about because I don't want there to be a lack of appreciation. And BMCers watching right now that are focused on those areas, they matter a lot. They're still the bulk of the spend. But we're going to talk today about where we see the world headed. We're going to talk about multi-cloud alignment. We're going to talk about partners. Partners like CAP, partners like AWS and Azure and IBM. And we're going to talk about what our customers are telling us matters. Let's start with something that was announced very recently that we're excited about. And this is back to one of those very first bullets that customers told us mattered to them. And that's the idea of discovering assets everywhere. Sometimes we call it multi-cloud discovery. That's what the team would refer to it as. But I call it discovery everywhere. And the idea is that our customers are afforded the opportunity to discover their IT assets across the stack, from on-prem all the way to multi-cloud environments, partnerships with AWS and Azure and Cloud Foundry. and the companies that you work with. Now, we use the term very deliberately. We are not a monolithic, one-dimensional cloud player. We have been very, very careful to ensure that we align to the cloud players you work with to enable you to have a comprehensive view. And partners like BT, British Telecom, who are here today, have done an amazing job of using this solution, both internally and for their customers. It's provided something else that's really important for customers who are moving in this direction. It provides an opportunity for customers to identify blind spots. And that leads to a different discussion, which is around security. So you know what you have, and you know where you have risk. Now, we learned a lot, unfortunately, through some major customers, some regulated, who went through WannaCry. And what they learned is they weren't quite as safe as they planned to be or thought they were. Customers were not protecting key areas of their business. They were not scanning their dev and test environments in their DCs. They left it to the applications team to measure and monitor the cloud, and they found out they had risk. Unfortunately, they found out after they got hit. Now, we'd like to say that WannaCry is a one-off and it won't happen again, and you'll hear from Bill Baruti about what we are doing on that front to ensure that you are protected. Our SecOps policy, which we just announced over the last 2 weeks. SecOps policy to ensure that you have visibility of the areas that matter most. Not everything is equal. Customer data, payroll perhaps, ensuring that you've got policies associated with those areas. And SecOps response, so you have coverage across the stack. As BMC sees the world transitioning, we are ensuring that you're ready and prepared to cover both. From applications, to database, to servers, to networks, to cloud. So you'll see and hear from us about a business that, frankly, wasn't as big a year ago as it is now and is growing at an exponential rate because we are covering the stack. We're excited to talk to you about it. We'll also spend some time and talk about this idea of intelligent analytics, this idea of machine learning. But rather than talk about it in concept, you're going to hear from our team on the digital service management side about applying a use case to something that we've been pretty involved with for a while, with some of you, called IT ticketing. How do we take that machine learning capability and ensure that we have a smarter utilization of those tickets? So you don't have IT folks going out on the same call again and again and again for the same issue. Now you may say, we've been doing IT ticketing for years, it's never really changed. But we have cognitive capabilities positioned and designed to help you with this transition in a way that we never have. We're also really excited about a business that is changing as customers transition, and that is automation and workload automation. And the idea is really an amazing one because we have been leaders in this space for a long time. And Gursteif and his team, for year after year after year, have built the best solutions. And what that means is we bring disparate systems together. About 3 months ago, I had the good fortune, because I'm learning more and more about malware and understanding what's happening in the space as it relates to security. So I met with this company called Malwarebytes, an amazing company. I could go into massive statistics, but it's almost unconscionable. They're looking at 1.7 trillion data records a day on millions of endpoints and assessing where malware is happening around the world. They have these huge geospatial maps, and they bring all this together. And so as I'm meeting them and talking to them about what they do on an AWS platform with elastic scaling, they're talking about Hadoop processing and ETLs and all of the elements that go with it. And I said, how do you bring all these pieces together? And they said, that's your automation. That brings all of that together. And they provide for their customers zero-day threat detection. Every day, their customers know whether or not they're safe. It's an amazing company. Now, I'm not here as an evangelical force for Malwarebytes. I'm here to talk about what we do. And we're doing it around the world. Weatherbees. Any horse aficionados in the room may know Weatherbees. Weatherbees has been around here in the UK before the US became the US. And the same phenomenon is happening. We're bringing disparate pieces together of these different systems, architected in such a way that they help business produce results. Now, that's all great, and we've been doing this for a while, and that business is a growth business for BMC. But what we've done is we've invested in that business in the form of ensuring that we now have solutions in the form of APIs for developers. We call this jobs as code. And you'll hear about that today as it relates to our transition to help our customers. And it's already in the cloud. You'll also hear from us about managed file transfer, something we had not been in before and a business that's really taking off. Continued investment in core areas that are changing that matter for our customers. Now, we've had these interesting conversations with customers again and again about transition to the cloud, and customers telling us we did not know how much it would cost. So some of us were up at Seattle about 3 weeks ago, and we said to two big Seattle companies, I know you can guess who they are, what about cost? What about preemptive cost? And they both said, we don't want to surprise our customers. And we said, we have an answer. And we came up with something called cloud cost control. And there's a large utility company in the UK that is involved with a large utility company that is in Spain and Italy. And this company is transitioning much of their business and their applications to a large cloud player. Now, the CIO came back and said, we anticipated it would be X amount of euro. It turned out to be X times 5. And the CIO's conversation with the CFO was not pleasant. And we put in cloud cost control, and they are expecting over the next 3 years to save 10 to 15 million euro just by assessing which applications to transition, which to leave alone, and perhaps which to keep on the mainframe for the next 5 years because it's not opportune to do so. Cloud cost control has become very important in helping our customers assess not only what from a security perspective to transition, but what it will cost to make that transition. So we're excited to share that with you. Sky UK, for those of you who know Sky UK, is another example of a customer right here who's going through a similar transition and doing so in a very, very wise manner. They call it capacity planning, but the idea is the same. So as we talk to customers, as I mentioned, one of the things that came up was, what about our customer? What about our customer's customer? What about this C2B idea, and how do we influence and impact that to help our business? And over the last few years, we've been transitioning with BMW. Now, BMW, for most of you, is a world-class automobile manufacturer, and that continues to be the case. But we looked at it from the vantage point of how they operate. And they have 60,000 employees around the world who are now holding in their hands basic IT capabilities in the form of digital transformation. And what they've seen is customer sat going up and calls to the help desk going down by 80%. People don't have to get on the phone and call IT for help. They have basic skill sets in their hands in a secure fashion. So we were really excited about this. We've told this story for the last year or so, but it's changing again. And that is, it's no longer IT helping their customer, it's now the customer touching theirs. Now we have this rolled out and taking form around the world with the dealers, with the service centers, and they're now touching the end user customer in the form of what they call My IT, in such a way that we're seeing a massive proliferation of our solution. Now, we recently had a conversation with one of the largest banks in the world, and within 4 months, they have rolled this out to 240,000 employees. So I encourage you to spend some time and talk to us about what we're doing on this front. It's really exciting. And this idea of consumerization aligned to digital transformation, touching the enterprise, is substantive and another area of significant investment. So we have been investing in innovation. We have been investing in tools, solutions, and services that impact and influence our customers' transition. We are going to take you through these today. As we break out, as much as we are excited to share and show and tell, please come and let us continue to do what set us on this journey, and that's listen. Tell us what you think, because we are continuing to invest in innovation. We are continuing to invest in your transition, but not leave anyone behind as it relates to the core areas that matter. I thank our partners. Our relationships have been an unbelievable source of inspiration, in some cases perspiration, ensuring that we are making strategic choices that are going to help our customers for a long, long time, and we're going to continue to do it. I thank you so much, and thank you for being here.
Everyone is using the cloud. Business clouds, public clouds, even personal clouds. This makes the management of clouds very challenging and very costly. BMC multi-cloud management solutions offer superior security, cost control, performance, and total visibility so you can innovate faster, cost-effectively, and safely on all your clouds.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? Did everybody get their coffee this morning? All right, I ask because we're going to spend the next 60 minutes with me and 12 co-presenters demonstrating 6 brand new innovations from BMC. So I'm going to need you to pay attention because we're going to move fast and we're going to have an exciting hour ahead. Now, what we've been investing in is innovation to help you on your digital business transformation journey. And we're going to cover 2 primary areas against which that innovation from BMC is being applied to your challenges. The first is in the transition to a multi-cloud reality. How many people in the room are doing some sort of work, dev, test, or production, in a third-party managed cloud or a public cloud opportunity? How many people in the room? Okay, so about half or more. How many think they will be in the next 2 years? Okay, pretty much everybody. So we're all headed to a multi-cloud reality. And that's created an opportunity and a challenge for all of us. And we're going to show you today innovation that will support you in a successful path towards that multi-cloud reality. Now, the second area that we'll spend time on today is in the area of using data to help us improve the efficiency with which we do our jobs. Machine learning, AI, NLP, all these terms get thrown around. But how do we practically apply the use of large volumes of data and modern analytics technology to increase the quality of work that our people do and the efficiency with which we run our businesses? So we're going to show you some very specific innovation with practical use cases of this modern technology to make our jobs easier and make our companies more efficient. All right, so what do you think? Ready to go? All right, let's do it. So we all know that we're transitioning to a digital reality. We all know that digital business is the source of competitive advantage. And if we don't go digital, we're going to die. We're either going to be eat or be eaten. We're either going to be the disruptor or the disrupted. Well, within that, all of us, and we have the show of hands, are using the cloud as one of the key vehicles to change our competitive advantage in our journey to being more digital. Now, that's great news, and we're all excited about it, but it also requires us to rethink a lot of things. Because if the past was managing our own data centers, managing our own virtualized private cloud environments, we knew how to do that. We knew how to secure them. We knew how to automate them. We knew how to manage cost in those environments. We had processes, best practices, technologies that allowed us to be safe, secure, and efficient in those environments. And we spent the last 10, 20, 30 years making them work really, really well. Well, that was great. But now with this new reality of modern multi-cloud, third-party cloud providers, some of whom are here with us today in the audience, with public cloud providers like AWS and Azure, with DevOps processes that make the movement of applications and data across infrastructure more dynamic than ever before, much of that technology, process, and best practice that we put in place starts to fall apart. It doesn't move with us in an elegant way to this new multi-cloud reality. And we have to rethink not only the technology, but the processes that we utilize to ensure that we run a safe, cost-effective, and efficient business. Now, that's what we're going to spend the next hour talking about, is innovation that we've applied to help you, as we've listened to you, make a successful transition to that multi-cloud reality. So Peter talked about these different discipline areas. Let's jump right in and start talking about innovation from BMC that's being delivered to help you in that journey. And with that, I'd first like to invite up on stage the folks that are going to help me with demonstrations here this morning. So demo team, welcome. All right, demo team, let's get ready. So first of all, what makes sense to move to the cloud? This is a big question, and we have to get it right. And in order to get it right, first we have to understand some baselining of activities. What are the assets that we need to consider when thinking about moving to the cloud? What's the application context? What infrastructure, what applications actually create the customer outcome that we're looking for? This is a big problem to solve. So understanding our assets, understanding the connected tissue between them, and what needs to be in place to create a successful business outcome in the cloud is a big deal, and we'll talk about that today. Secondly, what about cost? What actually makes sense to move to the cloud? Not everything is the answer. And if we don't think through that problem carefully, if we're not thoughtful about whether or not lifting and shifting something makes sense, or is that going to cost more? Do I need to re-architect it? Do I need to look at a different database opportunity? What will the cost be when I move it and as it grows over time? Now, I don't know about any of you in the room, but many of our customers are surprised by cost outcomes when they get to the cloud. So being thoughtful about what makes sense to move and planning for it is a really important criteria. In addition to that, we have to understand performance baselines. You know, what if we move something to the cloud and we don't get the same responsive rate for customer satisfaction than we expected, the one that we used to provide from our private cloud or data center environment? So we have to baseline performance characteristics so that we get as good or better outcomes when we move things to the cloud. And then lastly, we absolutely have to understand our compliance and security posture as it is in our private cloud and data center environment, and make sure that we execute that as well or better when we get to the public cloud. So first, migration. How do we understand the baselining of requirements and what makes sense to move to the cloud, and how do we do so in a successful manner? And we'll see technology demonstrated against that today. So first, let's start with discovery. Now, BMC has the leading discovery tool in the market. Many of you in the audience use it. It's a fantastic product. But as you move things to the public cloud or to third-party cloud providers, that changes. Discovery needs to go there with you. If you have assets that span the private environment and the public environment, and you need to understand the relationships between them, and you have developers bringing new applications to market every day, and they're moving around between those different environments, you need a technology that's going to span that changing dynamic world and live with you on-prem and live with you with an understanding of your assets in the public cloud. Well, I'm excited to tell you that that's exactly where we have taken our market-leading discovery technology. It is now cloud-aware across all public cloud platforms and is ready to follow you there. So with that, I'd like to invite my colleague Andy on stage to show you a demonstration of this exciting new innovation. Andy?
Thank you, Bill. I'm really excited and proud to be standing here today to talk about BMC Discovery for multi-cloud and how it's going to help all of you navigate through this complex multi-cloud reality that Bill just described. The demonstration I'm about to show you is going to give you a taster of some of the innovations we've just released in Discovery 11.2. Now, every journey has to begin somewhere, and the journey to the cloud begins with discovery. So let's start the demo. Our new multi-cloud dashboard summarizes your use of public cloud infrastructure. It shows you trends over time, as well as details of all of the cloud regions and services and deployments you have therein. As we drill into the detail, you can see that the visualizations have been enhanced with contextual shading information that clearly highlight and group the nodes based on which cloud region they're deployed within. And furthermore, the visualizations reveal crucial dependency information between those assets, be those assets running in public clouds, private clouds, on the traditional data center, and perhaps most interestingly, where those dependencies exist between them in hybrid cloud deployments. Now, for a decade, Discovery has been releasing monthly knowledge updates, regular as clockwork, that have broadened and deepened Discovery's ability to understand your environments, making modeling applications more effective and making it easier for you to understand security risk. In the latest release, we've extended that to include multi-cloud, which allows us to add support for new services as AWS or Azure make them available, support entire regions as they get deployed, and support entirely new cloud platforms as they become available, such as OpenStack, Cloud Foundry, Google Cloud Platform, all coming soon. And all of this without requiring you to upgrade your product. And most importantly, Discovery allows you to map your applications across those estates in public cloud, on-premise data center, in a single view. And it's this holistic, vendor-agnostic approach that makes BMC Discovery the trusted source of IT data that you need. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Andy. What do you think? You think discovery in a multi-cloud reality is going to be important? Yeah? Yeah. Well, we've been listening to you, and as a part of listening to you, we've been spending time with our clients, and one of them I'm excited to be able to invite on stage with me right now, and that's Luke Harrigan. Luke, would you please join me on stage? Luke, thank you.
I'm all microphone free, so
Yeah.
they don't.
Luke, thanks for being here with us today.
Problem.
So Luke is a global vice president from Capgemini and has been a partner and a customer of BMC's for a long time. And he and his team have been really helpful in us thinking through this multi-cloud discovery problem and really our multi-cloud strategy more broadly. So Luke, thank you again for being here. Let me give you a second just to introduce yourself and Capgemini.
Sure. So first non-BMC person on the stage, so it's all downhill from here, I'm afraid. So I work in Capgemini. I work in our global business, and I'm looking at our services and how they're going to really start to evolve and change. I think one of the biggest challenges that we face within Capgemini is the speed of change in the market, in the DevOps space, in the cloud space, and how we can really take that journey with our customers. They're all at our point in this journey. When we get involved and we get engaged in the conversation, it's the guidance that we can offer, and it's how we can enable this level of change, but in a secure and stable way. So that's where I work.
Yep. And Luke, you know, you and I were talking about the fact that you're managing tens of thousands of servers with Discovery for many of your customers. You know, when you think about your customers' move to a multi-cloud reality, what are some of the challenges that you see them facing?
I think you've covered off a couple of the moments earlier. I think one of our biggest challenges we have is, say, it's the journey. We've got clients with a huge amount of physical infrastructure. Everyone knows where they're trying to get to. Everyone's got a realization that public cloud is coming, and how do you get there? But one of the things that repeatedly comes up is, as much as I want to enable our workforce to start provisioning and standing up new machines, I want control. I don't want the surprise at the end of the month to be a bill from these public cloud providers that's just blown out of all proportion. I want to be able to understand what my teams are doing, how they are replatforming applications, what the architecture of that looks like. And as people try and branch out across multiple cloud providers, really truly understanding what assets you have where, what IP you have where, and really how secure that whole piece is.
Yep. And I think that's an important point, because the public cloud offers great opportunities for speed and innovation, and an opportunity for us to give developers and applications teams more flexibility to move fast than they ever could before. But if we don't maintain visibility and control, then bad things can happen. And one of the things you and I have talked a bit about is security and compliance, and how important it is not only to understand where our assets are, but how we're managing them from a security and compliance point of view. Can you talk about that as well?
Sure. So it strangely comes back down to process. Back, in the old technology days, you're in a position whereby everyone knew where your physical infrastructure was. Everyone knew where your applications were. So security were comfortable that they had a handle over what was where and how you'd get in. In this changing market now, as the business and the industry is trying to drive people towards a public cloud environment, it's very difficult for it to be so fluid. For something like security, to have a true understanding of the infrastructure, the estate, and the applications, especially as we get into mobile and mobile data and transition of those kind of services. So we are using the BMC tools to look at security compliance and how we can really make sure that for our clients, they have a control over their application estate, be that on Azure, AWS, or across a hybrid environment with applications in legacy as well as on the cloud.
Yep, that's exactly right. And one of the other things Luke and I were talking about is with the upcoming implementation of the consequences of GDPR, one of the most important things is that we know where our assets and our data are. And it really all starts with discovery.
Yeah, it truly does. And we, as I say, we use it internally for ourselves, we use it with our clients. And an understanding of when you're taking applications, when you're taking that journey and you're moving applications into the cloud, everything from the architectural position to the total end state really is based around discovery, is based around understanding everything you're moving. And you mentioned performance. That is one of the key pieces. Knowing where your performance was before it moved, where your performance is after it moved, you can often start to see real changes in those environments. And with growth, infrastructure as code, the ability to stand up virtual machines in an instant, understanding how your landscape is growing and what frankly, your billing is going to look like at the end of the month is really important to our clients.
Great. Luke, thank you very much for joining us today. Appreciate it. Now, Luke just mentioned cost, which we all know is an opportunity and a risk. And it's interesting, we announced today a survey of which many of you in the room participated. And the number 2 reason for moving to the cloud was the opportunity to get a cost advantage, which is exciting. But we also know that moving to the public cloud or any cloud, third party otherwise, doesn't necessarily come with a cost advantage. And in fact, sometimes we end up with cost surprises, which of course is not what we want. We want to know what things are going to cost when we move them to the cloud. We want to know what the cost of a new application developed from birth in the public cloud is going to cost us at inception and over time. And having a predictive set of tools to allow us to baseline and project cost is critical to our success. And the number of clients that many of us in the room have spent time with who have been surprised by cost is surprising and not in a good way. And so with that, BMC has taken our market-leading algorithms that helped many of you in the room manage your cost on-premise, in a data center, in a private cloud environment, and partnering with the public cloud providers, we've extended that capability to public cloud environments as well. And we're excited to announce this new innovation, TrueSight Cloud Cost Control, here today at the event. Now this is really important because again, this allows you to understand if I'm considering taking a current application in my data center or private cloud, and I'm thinking about running it in one of the public cloud environments, am I going to save money or is it going to cost me more? Do I need to re-architect it a little bit? Do I want to arbitrage between different public cloud providers to understand the best possible cost outcome? And then once I get there and my utilization and capacity changes over time, how do I think about how that cost will change over time so that I can plan for it? This is really, really critical so that we're not surprised by cost and so that we can plan effectively for it and we get the advantage that we wanted, which is more efficient outcomes and not the opposite. So with that, I'm really excited to invite my colleague Darren on stage to demonstrate this new innovation. Darren?
Thanks, Bill. Good morning. So it's great to be here in London again. I've been here many times. Every time I'm here, Bill, I learn something new. Yesterday, I was visiting a customer southeast of London. I learned a new phrase that I think kind of applies to this. So the phrase was when you get surprised and you kind of freak out. The term was, people sometimes have kittens. Now that seems very cute and cuddly, but when you're surprised by $1 million or multi-million-dollar bill that you don't want, it's a little more than having kittens, right? I'm from Chicago. We speak a little more bluntly there. It's not having kittens, it's having your ass handed to you, right? So it's a little different. So I'd like to share a little bit of what we're doing. I'm going to introduce my lovely assistant, Jim. Jim? Okay, great. Why don't we switch over to the demonstration and let's show what we have as far as helping to control costs in the multi-cloud environment. So the first screen that you see with TrueSight Cloud Cost Control is very intuitive. It helps you understand what you're spending on-premise as well as, in this case, with AWS and Azure. Helps you understand what you're spending by compute resources, storage, network. It also helps you understand, as opposed to the bills that you're getting from your cloud providers, it helps you forecast what you're going to spend based on your actual usage and your actual pricing catalogs that you'll have with the cloud providers. So this is helpful, but as you're spending in the cloud, much of it's being done with applications. The lines of businesses in your organizations are spending that money. So let's look at things by business service. So Jim, let's look at a business service here. Now, first of all, let's understand that as you look at things by business service, you can organize and create the business services a few different ways. First, you can use discovery, as it now supports the multi-cloud environment, so you can get that service topology and understand how all the CIs interact. You can also use the tagging in AWS or Azure if you're following tagging principles, as well as you can use your CMDB, whether it be from BMC or a third-party CMDB. That'll help you create those services. Now, as we dig into one of the actual services, facility service management, you understand all of the resources and all of the things that make up that application and how it's being spent and how it's reflected in terms of monthly cost as well as forecasting using the algorithms that we've built up over the past few years. Now, what's exciting though is to think about actually moving this. This is Azure-based, but let's think about, is this optimized? Are we spending the money the best way? So let's just click on the simple button of Simulate Migration. And here you see a very intuitive explanation of this is what it's costing, $692 a month if you have a 3-year contract with Azure. But as you move it to AWS, over time, you're going to save money. You actually reduce it by about 50%. Jim, if you scroll down a little bit, I think there's something interesting here. Right as we simulate the migration, we see that in Azure, there's a memory capacity that we've reached. So as we simulate this migration, we'll help you understand what that's going to be in AWS, and we can optimize that. Another thing is, you see at the top here, we're actually only using about 20% of the CPU. So let's actually optimize that. We're going to reduce the instance size in AWS. And as we do that, you'll see the initial first-year cost by month actually go down as well. So now we have a fully optimized and fully understandable, okay, which is important because no longer are we looking at a multi-page, in some customers, 700-page contract that they're getting, or a bill that they're getting from AWS. It's just a simple dashboard. Let's look at another application. And if we look at the business service that is actually running on-premise, and let's simulate the migration and figure out where we should run it. Should it be in Azure or AWS? So we're going to look at the MSN application. And as we simulate the migration, we can see the initial information at first. But as we simulate the migration, here we're spending $182 a month. Now that costing can actually be based on your inputs into the application itself, into Cloud Cost Control, or we can use standard pricing that we have built up over time by working with customers. In AWS or Azure, again, using your real pricing that you input into the tool, you can see that we're actually going to decrease the cost in AWS dramatically, okay? All right, so great. So Jim, thanks for that. I appreciate the demonstration there, well done. As we've built up this capability, we've actually worked with many, many customers, and one of those customers is a major global retailer. And they have been working with us on the capacity optimization side in terms of on-premise capabilities, and they're now looking to gain incredible savings as they move more and more of their workloads to the cloud. So they're seeing a very intuitive interface, seeing a very easy way to optimize their cost and spend around their environment, okay? All right, now, in TrueSight, as many of you have been working with us over the years, either from Patrol or BPPM, TrueSight is a very different and very evolved platform in terms of managing your overall environment. Now we have cloud cost control, we've had capacity, but what's very important is also performance, and especially from the user perspective. So as well as cloud cost control, TrueSight has evolved, and if we show the next slide there, TrueSight Operations 11 was just recently released, and it now also supports your full cloud environment. So not only your on-premises and entire vast applications that you can manage on-premise, but now we support in terms of AWS and Azure. So you're using one application to manage the performance of your multi-cloud environment, which is critical because your end users don't care where your infrastructure sits. It's really a matter of you having the full control of your performance and end user experience no matter where the information sits. Okay? All right, Bill, I think we're all set.
Darren, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
So again, rethinking the way that we consider cost and performance outcomes in a multi-cloud world requires new process and new technology. And what you've seen today is BMC's investment, again, listening to you to make sure that we can help you in that transition to a multi-cloud reality. Now, let's switch gears. Let's talk about automation. Automation is something that is at the core of IT. And automation is something that all of us are needing to employ more and more to ensure quality outcomes and efficient outcomes. And BMC has been a leader in this area with our world-leading Control-M technology for many years. But as you move your workloads to the cloud, we need to rethink how we help you do that. As you automate jobs that live in the cloud, Control-M needs to be there for you. As you move to the public cloud and you want to be able to easily automate and provision workloads, we want to make that easy for you to do. With the click of a button from the marketplace of Azure or AWS, we want you to be able to deploy Control-M. When you're building brand new applications that you expect to be born in and live in the cloud, we want you to be able to instrument them from birth to be automatable in cloud environments. And so we're making huge investments, again, by listening to you to make sure that our Control-M technology is ready for you on your public cloud and multi-cloud journey. And so with that, I'd like to invite my colleague, Alon, to join me on stage to demonstrate this new innovation. Alon, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Every time I present, people try to guess about my accent. Where is he from? So I'm not going to answer it, but I can say that London has been my home for the last 10 years, and I'm very happy to be here and talk about the latest innovation coming out of Control-M. So as you all know, multi-cloud environments are very complex. And I would like to share with you today why we believe, as Gartner says, that workload automation or workflow automation is the key for a successful deployment of multi-cloud. Let's start the demo. Every company faces this challenge of delivering critical services, like customer billing, fraud detection, payment processing, and more. Now, as companies adopt multi-cloud, orchestrating the workflows that power all those business processes is becoming more and more complex. More than that, even more challenging, you may have different teams in the organization working with your workloads, operations, schedulers, administrators, big data architects, DevOps, business users, each with their own goals, their own tools, and their own processes. Control-M is providing the platform that actually allows organizations to manage their entire enterprise using the same interface. So Control-M can manage all the applications that are running at the enterprise using a very simple view, as you can see over here. With a simple drag and drop user interface, you can easily connect and run processes, workflows in your entire enterprise and assure that you never miss a service delivery. And now, Control-M is available also on the cloud. So in the AWS marketplace, you can go and quickly run native Control-M on AWS using internal AWS capabilities like RDS, for example. And the same goes for Microsoft Azure. You can quickly deploy Control-M in a couple of minutes and take advantage of the power and scalability that the public cloud provides. If you are doing DevOps, you need jobs as code with the new solution Control-M Automation API. So developers can use JSON to add jobs into their CI/CD automation toolchain and get better agility. More than that, faster now, Control-M Automation API is available in Workbench. So it's a no-charge sandbox environment that can be downloaded from GitHub. Finally, file transfers. Multi-cloud automation depends on file transfers from mainframe to mobile, on-premise to multi-cloud. Control-M automates file transfers using the same easy-to-use interface as managing the workloads and providing dashboards so you get 100% control of your data, assuring that you have the right data at the right place at the right time. I would like to end with a customer story, and this is Amadeus. I believe many of you are familiar with Amadeus, a leading provider of technology solutions around the travel industry. Actually, they run around 90% of the global travel transactions. They are connected with 700 airlines, over 600,000 hotel properties. With the travel transaction driven by online and mobile customer behavior, the current infrastructure was not good enough, and Amadeus started the process of moving their services to the cloud. In this process, Control-M is one of the core technologies that allows them to take advantage of the flexibility and provide faster capabilities in the cloud, as well as moving the services from on-premise to the cloud. The other thing about this process of moving their services to the cloud was really about taking advantage of methodologies such as DevOps, CI/CD automation, and jobs as code. Using a Control-M Automation API jobs as code, Amadeus is allowing their 5,000 developers to easily use Control-M, consume Control-M, define and manage the workflows from within the code. As a result, they're being able to process over 50,000 transactions a second while delivering 99.99% of availability. And with that, I would like to transition back to Bill.
Great. Alon, thank you very much. So again, as you move forward in your innovation path towards DevOps and a public cloud opportunity, our Control-M leading automation technology will be there ready for you to support you on that journey. Now, let's switch gears and let's talk about security. Let's talk about compliance. It's come up a number of times today. And this is a bit of an interesting and provocative quote from Gartner. And the basis of this is that many of us think, well, the public cloud is secure. You know, somebody else is going to worry about all that stuff for me. Well, not true. When you put your applications into the public cloud, they come with all of the good and bad things that are in those applications, whether it's a compliance deficiency or a security vulnerability. You still have responsibility for that. When you use public cloud environments, you need to make sure that those environments and access to them is managed in a manner that will keep you compliant. Things like GDPR requirements, things like your own industry requirements around access rights and security. You still have to be responsible for those in this multi-cloud reality. And so it's with that BMC, listening to you, invested significantly in some brand new solutions. BMC SecOps Response Service, and then announcing here today at the event, our brand new BMC SecOps Policy Service. These are new services born in the cloud that help you manage your security and compliance profiles across your on-prem and cloud environments so that you can ensure you're secure when you need to be against a WannaCry breakout, as Peter referred to earlier, that you know where your assets are, you know where your vulnerabilities exist, and you can automate the remediation of them quickly. so that you can ensure your ability to support your auditor's question, am I compliant against this particular policy right now? You'll be able to answer them with ease across that multi-cloud environment. So I'm excited to invite my colleague Daniel on stage to help us and show this new innovation. Daniel?
That same music plays anytime I enter my home as well. Really compelling. So before I get started, I'm going to call out Anthony. He's going to be helping us with the demo today. We can give a round of applause. So if anything goes wrong, it's Anthony's fault. We just need to set that. So the Gartner quote that Bill talked about earlier is really poignant. And it's incredibly important to keep in mind that while Azure and AWS and Google Compute are secure in terms of what they offer, it's the customer's job to secure everything they put on top of them. And when you think about hundreds or thousands of developers that are configuring hundreds of instances and potentially dozens of different services on those instances, it's beyond human scale to get everything right all the time. And so for this demo, what we're going to do is we're going to highlight one of those services and a very simple, actually default configuration of that service that makes it incredibly vulnerable. And the service that we're going to talk about today is Elasticsearch by AWS. Is anybody familiar with that out of the box? A few people. It's incredibly ubiquitous. And what it does is essentially allow you a very easy way for you to put your data within AWS and have that available to be searched and used by all your applications. And it's incredibly powerful. There's a little problem, though, which is the default configuration for Elasticsearch allows access to that data from anybody. And so we're going to go back in time, January 13th of this year, happened to be a Friday, and about 300 AWS Elasticsearch instances got ransomware. And so their data was downloaded and replaced with a little ransom note that said, hey, if you want your data back, you need to send 0.2 Bitcoins to this particular address. By the end of that weekend, it was 3,000 instances. And now we're talking about tens of thousands of Elasticsearch engines routinely get ransomware and hijacked using this exploit. So for the demo, we're going to put on our cloud security operations hat. We're good engineers. It's Friday the 13th, January 13th. And the first question we want to ask ourselves is, do we have even any Elasticsearch domains installed and being used in our environments and across all of our environments? And so we just select the resource type, ES domain, and we can see right here that we do, in fact, have resources. And we have some of them that are actually non-compliant. We have configured 7, and 4 of them are specifically in violation of our policies. So we'll drill down on those 4, and we'll see if there's anything we really need to be worried about. Because it's one thing to be potentially not compliant with your policies, which is important, but another thing to know what specifically are in those resources, and should we take action immediately. So we see right here that several of them are specific to, or a couple of them are specific to data. So we'll dig down on the customer data, and we'll see exactly what policy it's non-compliant with. And it's exactly that policy that we were talking about. This domain should not have open data access. And while it's really important to be able to understand what you have, if it's compliant or not compliant, be able to do that really easily, the next step is just as important, to be able to then go fix it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to click on that policy and hit remediate the violation. What the policy service is going out to do is it's interrogating the AWS environment, it's examining that configuration, and it's making the change for you. Now, while the user interface for this is pretty clean, it's pretty easy, everything that you saw today can be done and instrumented through REST APIs. Because when you need to act beyond human scale, you can't be dependent upon somebody clicking through an interface and making sure that things happen. In addition to that, you can integrate this into your DevOps pipelines and into your actually automated deployment processes. So at 2:10 this afternoon, we are giving a talk along with our partner Capgemini about best practices and state-of-the-art within cloud security and DevSecOps. And in addition to that, we're also going to talk how we implement the policy service within our own pipelines to make sure our applications are secure. Love to see you there. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. So I think we are going to feel a lot more comfortable sleeping at night knowing that we've got public cloud environments that are compliant and secure and automation that allows us to build that into our DevOps pipeline process. Okay, now let's switch gears. So we've talked about multi-cloud management and the innovation and process change that's required for us to do multi-cloud management successfully. Now let's switch and talk about the future of ITSM and ITOM. Now, BMC believes, and by the way, so do you based on the survey results that many of you participated in, that the next generation of ITSM and IT operations management will be highly influenced by how we leverage data. You know, whether it's terms that, again, get thrown around like artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing, we're all planning to use data and these new modern analytics capabilities to improve the efficiency and quality of work. So the survey data is pretty clear, but how many people in the room are thinking about ways to use these kinds of modern technologies to change the way you work and your people work? Okay? More than half of you. I bet you it's all of you, and some of you are just shy this morning. So the question is, how do we successfully do that? Because buzzwords don't create good business outcomes. And so at BMC, we think about business outcomes. We think about use cases. We think about personas, ways to practically automate and improve the quality and efficiency of work. So what we're going to talk to you about next is 3 specific personas. End users, and we know end users don't really want to call the help desk, right? How many of us get excited about making a call to the help desk? No offense, because many of us manage help desks, but we don't get too excited about it, right? And the younger generation doesn't even really understand the concept of why I should ever need to call a help desk. So we need to push more and more capability digitally to our end users so they don't have to call the help desk. Secondly, agents. We don't want agents doing mundane, routine things that we could automate, that a machine could help us do. We want to elevate the quality of the people that are manning our help desks so that they work on the most sophisticated and most difficult problems. And then lastly, when we think about employing and deploying our ITSM solutions, we want to make accessible to our developers the ability to build analytics and automation into our ITSM solution from birth, so that these things are very easy to leverage in production. So with that, I'm really excited to invite my colleague Nyaki on stage to talk about our innovation in this area. Nyaki?
Thank you, Bill. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Can you all hear me in the back? Beautiful. So like Bill said, service management as a category, be it IT service management or customer service management, is going through a complete disruption. Disruption through technologies like AI, ML, chatbots, bots that are not just intelligent, but they're conversational, that can have a conversation like you and I can have a conversation. And also virtual agents and virtual assistants that are no longer just in the consumer world now, but they're now entering into the enterprise world. So there are 3 main things that we want to show you today. The first one is the end user experience. The end user experience that traditionally was always through a phone or an email or even filling up a big form every time you needed a service request. How does that experience look like when you interact with a bot? Bot, not just in one channel, it could be a Slack bot, an SMS bot, or a chat bot. And that's what we call omni-channel experience. So let's take a look at it. We'll show you our digital workplace. Digital workplace, which was formerly called as MyIT, is used by all of our customers around the world to provide one-stop shop. All services, whether it's IT services, HR services, procurement services, through this single pane of glass. In fact, Peter talked about earlier, where we have a financial institution in North America that has rolled this digital workplace to 240,000 employees worldwide across the entire employee base. So now you can integrate digital workplace with Slack. Slack which is one of the most common channels among younger generation. My son, who's 16 years old, uses Slack all the time. So, Bill, just gave me a promotion. Bill, that's a cue for you.
Congratulations.
And I'm moving into a new office. So for me to put in the office move request and get that request fulfilled through Slack, the most convenient way is, as I'm working in Slack, right from there, I can put in the request. And as you can see, it's having a conversation with me to understand which floor I'm moving to, what the new office is, and we're able to fulfill that request within Slack without me not leaving Slack as a channel. So that's the beauty. Now, if we extend this to SMS, how many of you use text? I better see all the hands up, right? We use text, SMS, to interact with our colleagues, families, and friends. So imagine if you can use SMS to be able to put in a request. We just moved from Texas to California, and I realized that I forgot to update my home address. So now I can use SMS and the Siri, which is a part of my iPhone, to request that service. So Terrence, who is helping with me all the demos, will use Siri to update that home address. Go ahead, Terrence.
I'd like to update my address.
And as you can see, as we put in that request, it should be able to take the address. By the way, these are all live demos that we are doing. They're actually, there's no canned demos, there's actually live demos that we're doing. So as we put in the address, you will see that it will validate the address and completely fulfill the request. And the request will get created as a service ticket inside Core Remedy, and you will see the remedy number also being prompted to this. It should validate.
It's not the application, it's the network.
It should validate the address. There you go, right? Beautiful, beautiful. And as we extend beyond SMS, virtual agents and virtual assistants, how many of you have an Alexa at home? Echo, Alexa, right, beautiful. So now we're actually going to use a virtual agent that is sitting right next to Terrence on his desk there to be able to put in requests. By the way, Terrence recently got married, and he's very progressive. He's very progressive, and he's taking on his wife's last name. So he's going to use that virtual agent to update his last name. Go ahead, Terrence.
Alexa? Alexa, update my last name. Alexa, update my last name.
Why would you like to change?
I got married.
What is your new name?
Smith.
Smith, we have created a case to update your last name. Your case number is case 000000843.
Woo!
All right.
That is a remedy number, so you can see how the entire workflow happens. And this is what we mean by omni-channel experience that you can provide to your end users in the channel of their preference, whether it is SMS, whether it is chatbots, or whether it is a virtual agent. Now, you must be thinking, Nayaki, what about remedy? What are the core automation or AI ML capabilities are we embedding inside remedy? And as we were talking to all of you, one of the things that we heard loud and clear is as you have hundreds of thousands of tickets that are coming in on a daily basis, being able to classify every ticket assign the ticket to the right individual, and route the ticket to the right workflow is a very manual and a time-consuming process. Now we are embedding AI/ML and deep learning capabilities to automate all of that in the background so that you don't have to touch it, so that there's no human intervention. So here, this is agent workspace. Just for the demo purposes, we are showing you how it looks like. By the way, those of you who are familiar with Remedy, this agent workspace through Smart Recorder looks really, really cool. And as I'm putting in the request, you can see that even though if we mistype a spelling, the system is automatically able to detect the right category and assign it to the right category. That is the beauty of how we are doing now versus if we put something completely doesn't make sense, it detects it and flags it as an error. So the big difference between how we were doing in the past to how we are doing it now. In the past, we were using rule-based classification, which had its own limitations and old boundaries. But now, we are leveraging the deep learning capabilities from the platform, from the AI engine that you can guess what it is. We'll talk about it in a little bit. And being able to train the system based on all the historical data and also the current data that is coming in. And if you take it a little bit into the future, and as we evolve from IT assets to non-IT assets, in this use case, we are modeling a smart building, all the way from the various floors in that building to the various conference rooms and the various non-IT assets in that conference room. This is actually the work we are doing with our next-gen CMDB, where you can see the entire hierarchy of all those assets. And you can pick any one of those assets and see what the status of an AC unit is. And if I'm the facilities manager responsible for managing those assets, and if I can manage those assets through a chat bot, this is how the experience would look like. So right from the bot, I can ask what the health of all my assets are, if there's any unit that is not working. So as I request, you can see it gives the health of all the assets. If a unit that's not working, right from there, I should be able to turn it on or off. If there's an AC unit that is turned off, I should be able to turn it off. Now, this is a little bit futuristic. We are not there yet. This is something that we are working on. But the first two use cases, the omni-channel experience and also the Remedy use cases, is available right now. They're all powered through our Innovation Suite platform. We have cognitive microservices that we have enabled as a part of our Innovation Suite platform that not only we are using in our own applications, but are now available for all of you, all the developers, partners, and the ecosystem, to consume it in your own application and build your own use cases. And the AI platform, AI engine that is powering all of these use cases, ladies and gentlemen, we announced our partnership with IBM Watson a few weeks back in our New York exchange. So that is the AI Watson engine that is powering all these use cases, where we are working very closely with them to get the highest accuracy. The competitive advantage in AI is not just the use cases, but the accuracy at which we are able to classify, assign, and route them. In addition to IBM, we are also working with other leading AI platform vendors like Google's TensorFlow, which is very, very powerful, Amazon's Alexa, you saw some of it, and also Microsoft's Cortana engine. So you can pick the platform of your choice, whichever platform that you would prefer, and we'll integrate with that platform and make the various service management use cases available. In the end, I will say this one thing. Service management is going through a major transformation, and this is just the beginning of that journey, which is not just going to be proactive or predictive, but it'll be all about how you deliver that experience to your end users, to those users who would want to interact with you in the channel of their preference. And that's what we call omni-channel experience. Thank you all. Bill?
Jackie, thank you. So great job, Terrence and Naaki. When you do live demonstrations and you have the courage to do that, you have to be ready for anything, and I think they did a great job. So we talked about elevating the quality of work and the efficiency with modern technologies like Naaki and Terrence just demonstrated. Let's talk about one more persona. Let's talk about the service operations manager. Many of you in the room probably are service operations managers. Well, in addition to leveraging third-party technology, BMC is also investing in our own machine learning platform so that we have the ability to help you with technology directly from BMC. And if you're the operations manager, one of the questions you have to ask yourself is, where is the greatest opportunity for automation? Where is there the most amount of inefficiency and repetitive tasks and questions within my tickets? And how can I understand where those hot spots are so that I can find those opportunities for automation and then apply them? So with that, I'd like to invite Darren back on stage to join me to talk about our new innovation in this area. Darren?
It's good to be back. All right, so as Bill said, there's really the idea of getting more proactive, right? Because there's two levers that you can pull when you're working on your tickets and when, from a service management perspective. You can get faster, pull the lever and get faster at managing your tickets, making sure that you're handling the right tickets. Naaki showed some new innovation around that. But the other lever that you can pull is preventing tickets from happening in the first place. So how do we get more proactive at doing this? So Craig, my assistant for this demo, not quite as handsome as Jim, but a little more aggressive. He's a footballer. So, okay. So what you see here is actually a subset of BMC tickets. So we actually have about 2 million tickets loaded into TrueSight Intelligence, our SaaS platform that's helping with machine learning and analysis. And what Craig is showing here is a subset of it. It's just really the past year of tickets. It's about 250,000 tickets that we've analyzed just in terms of the categories that are set up in Remedy. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 categories. Now the problem with categories is they're not very helpful in terms of understanding what's really going on. So you see there's a little over half of our tickets are just infrastructure services. That doesn't mean a whole lot. So Craig, why don't we click on that, see what we can see as far as Tier 2 and Tier 3. There's not a lot of great information, but again, if the business is, we're talking with the business, let's make sure that our applications are being taken care of. Drill into that a little bit more. Again, it really doesn't show us anything further. So we just learned that they're running on Intel and Unix boxes. Well, that's kind of self-explanatory. Of course they are. But if we blow that away and look at a little bit differently, other, about, what, 8%, 9% of our tickets are other. So who has tickets that are categorized as other? Anybody? Anybody have that problem? Really? No one has hands today. I don't see any hands going up. So other. So when a ticket is entered, right, if it doesn't fit into one of the categories, your users or even sometimes your systems will automatically generate a ticket and classify it as other, right? Well, other is definitely not helpful. So Craig, why don't we drill into other? Wow, that's really not helpful. Okay, so this is the present state. This is the problem that we have today. Categories don't help us analyze and uncover really what the problem is. So what are you going to do? Are you going to read all your tickets? Are we going to read 17,000 tickets? Are you going to read 17,000 tickets? No, probably not. I don't have time for that either. So what we've applied is machine learning algorithms and in particular natural language processing algorithms as well to analyze all of your tickets at once and literally looking at the metadata as well as the free text information that's in the comment field that most of your users are using. And in about 5 minutes, you'll create a clustering of all the tickets. And what you can look at is the word pairing and the information that gives you more insight into what's really happening in your tickets. So some of you may not be able to read all the text here, but you'll see Oracle is running slow. That never happens. Down in the corner, you see Siebel and your mobile device management running slow. So what do you do with this now? So now that you have this insight that's delivered through this understanding of what's really happening in the tickets, you can auto-generate possibly a new category that your users can fill out, or possibly in the case of Oracle running slow, you can engage with the Oracle applications team and understand what's happening from that perspective, okay? Okay, Craig, thanks very much for your help. Appreciate it. Glad to see that the demonstration ran smoothly. Okay, so one of the customers that we've been working with in this area is Computer Center. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with Computer Center, huge organization. And one of the things they do is they have multiple service desks that they actually provide to their end customers. So they run service desks for other customers. So they're using this technology to help analyze not just one service management system, but multiple service management systems to gain intelligence across their entire environment. Philip Baus, Philip, where are you? Right there he is, over here. Philip is from Computer Center. He's actually going to be delivering a session in the performance and analytics track later today. You'll see that in your schedules in your BMC app. He's going to provide some more information about what they're actually doing, and Craig's going to actually do a little bit more of a demonstration and explain more of a TrueSight intelligence and the capabilities there. Okay? So Philip, thanks for doing that. So one last comment. With TrueSight intelligence and really with the overall TrueSight platform, this idea of service ticket analytics is just one of the use cases that you can do with this powerful platform. The customer that I was visiting yesterday that shared the having kittens comment with me, what they're doing is, in terms of smart metering, we're able to load up about 70 million events that are coming from smart meters around their energy provider. So 70 million events being analyzed and providing more information. Another one of the customers, a financial institution actually here in Europe as well, has billions of metrics being loaded into this system a day to really understand and provide real-time intelligence as far as what's going on in the environment. So it's just one of the use cases here, and we can provide more information on that when we drill into the track sessions, okay? All right, thank you.
Darren, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Well, as we draw things to a close in this session, I want to thank the demonstration team. Great job, guys. Now, we've talked a lot about technology this morning and shown you some exciting new innovations that are aligned with your digital business transformation journey. But, you know, it shouldn't really end just with technology. If we're going to be your partner, then we also need to be there to help you on the journey and provide services that get you there successfully. So I'm excited to announce that in addition to all of this new technology you've seen today, we're also announcing and launching a set of new services to help you in the transition to multi-cloud and cloud. With that, we have solutions that help you to baseline the requirements of moving to the cloud, to help you make decisions about what should and shouldn't move, to help you understand the profile of your assets so that you can then baseline the questions like, what does my security profile need to be? What will be most cost effective for me to move to the cloud? And how do I do so in as efficient a manner as possible? So putting all this innovation you saw today to work. We're going to be there as your partner as you do so. And then secondly, if you choose to run BMC's technology in the cloud, if you want it provided as a managed service or provided as a service from a public cloud environment, we want to be there to help you transition your use of our technology from an on-premise environment to the cloud as well. And so those services are all available from BMC so that we help you and we are your partner in your transition to the cloud. Now, in addition to us providing those services, we also need to be there in those public cloud environments with you when you get there. And we announced 3 weeks ago a strategic relationship with Amazon Web Services where we are partnering together and investing to ensure that BMC's technology supports you in the most effective manner possible. Now, we're highlighting AWS today. As you can imagine, we're investing in all the major public cloud platform providers. But in the case of AWS, which again is a recent announcement, we are working together to certify the utilization of all of our technology, not only on their platform, but against their best practices. AWS refers to them as competencies, to ensure that our technology supports their best practice utilization of their platform, so that you get the most efficient outcome possible in AWS when you choose to run your jobs there. And then lastly, we're partnering very closely with them to also ensure that if you want to run BMC's technology on AWS, Not only have we tooled our technology to do so and have partnerships to do so, but we've worked with AWS to make sure that you get the optimal cost and performance outcome of running BMC's technology in an AWS environment, should you choose to do so. So what do you think? Interesting? So when you choose to move to the public cloud, we'll be there. We'll be ready to support you. Well, we've seen a lot of innovation today. We've seen 6 powerful innovations focused on helping you make a successful journey in your digital business transformation move to manage a multi-cloud reality, to leverage analytics, to drive up the quality of work our people are doing, and to drive more efficiency into our IT operations. And we've done all of that in the context of BMC as a company. These innovations don't stand alone. These innovations are a part of a suite of technology that all of you use on-premise today and will begin to use more and more in a public and multi-cloud reality. They're all built with modern user experiences. They're all built with modern standards-based APIs so that you can integrate them in third-party technologies that aren't from BMC. They're all also DevOps ready so that you can inject them into your DevOps pipeline process. And again, all of them working together, leveraging the power of technology like discovery so we understand application context to manage best cost outcomes, security profiles, and performance outcomes. So it's really the power of all this technology working together that makes BMC your digital business transformation partner. I want to thank you for your time this morning. I hope you're as excited about all the innovation that we're bringing to market to support you in your journey. And I now welcome you all to take advantage of a break. We're going to have a 15-minute break for coffee outside, and then we'll come back in this room in 15 minutes for our customer panel. Thank you all very much.
feels like the kick-off events when the room's really wide, and
yes, I know.
and you feel the people at the end.
I still would prefer to have had you at the other end.
I don't quite understand the aligning to a slide,
I know,
but
and that I was getting angry. It was like, just do what you want.
it's not worth just not worth worrying about.
I know. I really don't understand that.
We're going to do a voice of God for you, so I'll wait for Kerry's cue.
Hello.
No worries, the bomb won't go off, I'm sure.
You're dressed like a flight attendant as well.
Stuff 600 bags yesterday.
Is what?
Stuff 600 bags yesterday.
Really? All right. Hello. You all right? Oh, we're shaking hands, are we? Hello.
My job. Are you going to get on the MC and
Boom, mic drop, and then
I can actually see you doing that.
you should do it. You will love it. She's like,
Have you been on? You know.
next.
Are you up first?
Customer panel.
Just hold that minute by the time I start. Have you just done it?
Hello, Christine. Hello, how are you? Good to see you.
Sorry. Good, sir. How are you?
Good, good. So you're having a fun session now, huh?
Well, yeah, hope so.
All right, I don't know why. I'm looking for Nick Goff. You haven't seen him recently, have you? I saw him
No.
earlier, but now I can't find him. All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
Right leg, my friend.
Thanks, sir. You too? Huh?
Steve Hamilton. Name's on the seat.
Yeah, I know him.
He's wrapping up, so I need to have a mic on him.
Oh,
apparently.
where's Steve?
Kerry's just calling him now.
Oh, it's just called. We're trying to get hold of him.
Gone.
Yeah, check the bar. Check the bar.
What's the pub?
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. Hopefully you have filled yourself with tea and biscuits, which is very British and traditional. Today, this next bit is one of my favourite bits of the whole day. I can already see some of you squinting, looking at me, looking at my picture. Those of you with glasses, I'm thinking, are they dirty? I am a living proof of digital transformation right here. Yeah, I obviously joined BMC when I was 12. So, but this bit is, I really like this bit because what we get to hear now are some stories of journeys, collaboration around what customers are going through in their business and what they're trying to do and how they're trying to move forward. So, I think we should get straight into it. So I'm going to invite Paul up, I'm going to invite Joanne, I'm going to invite Ben, come to the stage, and let's start hearing some of your examples and journeys. Paul, Joanne, Ben, how is that? Okay, so first off, let me get the technology working. And then let me get my eyes working. Right, now we're ready. Now it's just us three, okay? Well, you three and me, four. So there's no one else around here, so we'll have a nice little chat. And one of the things that we really want to try and do today is just try and articulate to everyone here, we've all got different journeys. Some have started, some haven't started yet. And it's really just expressing what you're doing in your business, how you're working with BMC, and how you're collaborating and working with your customers as well. So, Paul, we'll start with you. If you could just give a quick intro of what you do in BT, your role, your function.
Sure. I'm CIO for our central government and police business. And that gives me accountability for the solutions and the products that we take across central government and police.
Perfect, thank you. So in your role of CIO, obviously there's a lot of strategy that happens, aligning roadmaps with customers, with the business, etc. We hear quite a lot about the BT shared service platform. Could you talk us about that and help us understand why BT have invested in that platform?
Sure. I mean, as an organisation, BT has got a long history in providing managed services from network, voice, ICT. And the tooling that we use as an organisation has grown organically, if you like. So we have quite a large, complex tool set, which isn't particularly agile. So once you factor into that the challenges of cloud, we heard some of that this morning, the agility that we need to support cloud, it was clear that the tool set that we currently operate wasn't going to have the necessary agility. So we wanted to build effectively a vertically integrated tool set that would give us the capability to effectively go from a low level to monitor, manage, discover, right up to a high level to provision cloud in a smart way. And that's why we built the case to invest in a significant, what is a BMC platform that's just about to go live.
Perfect. And obviously within the challenges that you have there with the agile and trying to understand how you help give the best level of service to your customers and also to your business as well. Innovation obviously plays a strong part here, right? So what I'm hearing as well, the cyber security operations with service management. So tell us a bit about that innovation piece.
Sure. So as a provider, we provide managed services to a range of customers. To some of those customers, we also provide managed security services. And currently, we have two distinct stacks. We have a managed service stack for IT and a managed service stack for security. And so you have two different views of the same estate with two different sets of event processing, two different views of the configurations of those estates. And a number of large customers came to us and said, actually, this makes no sense. Is it possible to pull together an integrated cyber and ITSM view of the estate? So when there's an incident, when there's an event, be it an ITSM event or a cyber event, you've got a common set of processes, a common set of rules around processing that. And so we kicked off an exercise to start to pull together our in-house cyber stack, which is effectively a big data-based cyber capability, with our IT service management stack to give us that single consolidated view.
Thank you. And with regards to, there's obviously a lot of work in, let's call it like the back-end system inside BT, pulling all the different pieces together, all the different stacks together, working with BMC Solutions and the BMC team. Could you give a bit of insight with regards to, from a customer perspective, what differences are you seeing from the customer, feedback, NPS scores?
Yeah. Well, as a business, the NPS or Net Promoter Score is key to BT. It's a key metric that we measure how successful we are. And to make the investment in the platform we talked about, we had to build a business case. I'm sure people out there would build similar business cases for new investments. And a key part of that was looking at Net Promoter Score. And we pulled out, we went through the process that we go through to derive that score. And there were 10 key areas where we thought, well, actually, if we build this stack, that's going to improve our relationship with customers. And it was typically around customer experience or responsiveness and the accuracy of the data that we held by having a single consolidated view of their estate. And so we are starting to see some improvements in the scores, and we're hoping that they're going to continue.
So I'm going to ask another question. And by the way, we said 3 questions each, so I'm going to ask a 4th question now, just to pick one up. So not only from a technology perspective and the solution, but you're also building in what I heard you say was like NPS scoring. There's a process around that to feed back into the business. So you're looking at an holistic approach here.
It's at the end of the day, it's about delivering a business case. And that holistic approach is about delivering, yes, the improved level of service, yes, the reduced cost base we can deliver through automation, but also to improve the service we give to customers. So it is very much a holistic approach.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Joanne.
Hi.
News UK.
Yes.
Can you give a quick introduction of yourself, your role inside News UK?
Yes, certainly. I'm Service Operations Manager at News UK, so I'm responsible for the service management function, so that's your incident and problem processes, as well as actually being responsible for the service management tools, which for us is Remedy Force, the Discovery, the Atrium and the CMDB, so I'm responsible day-to-day for managing those.
Sounds like you've got a very busy day.
Oh, it is.
It's well publicised that News UK are early adopters of cloud, and particularly AWS. Could you just try and articulate to everyone the reasons behind the early adoption and the cloud-first strategy and the benefits that News were trying to get from this?
Yeah, certainly. As with quite a lot of businesses, we were very much infrastructure with our infrastructure in data centres or in various locations. As those servers were getting more aged, increasing the cost to support those and maintain those, as well as a change in strategy of the business where we were getting more digital products and we were doing a lot more development of digital. We actually identified that we needed to change our strategy around that for technology. So we looked at varying factors. Obviously, cost is a big factor of that, but we're also looking at increasing speed of actually deploying services, which was key to us with that digital and agile way we were going. So the thought was actually we would have to look at how we can utilise the cloud a lot more. Again, it was a balanced decision because there's always going to be services that will have to remain in our data centres, and it was actually making that decisions and actually planning that out.
Okay. And how much of that was driven by, again, this is an off-the-cuff question, by your customers or internal? What was the kind of balance?
It was coming from the board, but also the customers, because obviously it's a newspaper. There is more of a need now for your apps, your websites, than there is over reading of papers. So we actually had to change that and change our dynamics of how we were getting that news out there. And digital is the way forward, and it's keeping on top of that and keeping ahead of the competition.
And thank you. And the partnership with BMC, how has that helped enable you to execute against the vision and deliver what your board wants and your customer wants?
Well, the biggest part that we had to do was actually making the decision what we would move to the cloud and what we would remain on premise. So we had to actually plan that out, understand what our technical infrastructure was and our landscape. So that's where we really used Discovery to do that. We already had been using Discovery for a number of years. So what we did was we did a baseline scan, understand what infrastructure we had. We then went back to old school. We did an audit against what we actually had in the data center for the gaps, because there's always gaps.
Nothing wrong with old school either.
Yeah. And from that, once we had that full infrastructure, we knew exactly what it looked like. We could start the planning of it then. And again, throughout the planning and the deployment, so we had a project called Dexit, which is an 18-month project to reduce our footprint in our data centers, which again, cost savings. But we really use that information from those Discovery. But not only that, the tie-in with our change management systems, because whilst we're doing this project, BAU has to continue, so it's making sure we were maintaining what we were pulling out of data centers, we were maintaining the service. So it's the collision detection, the impact analysis that was also going on with using our tools with the change management system.
And that's one of the things, I think, when you start planning understanding where you are and where you want to be, there's a huge amount of change. It's not just at the technology layer.
No.
It's the holistic bit that we're talking about with Paul, right? It's all the processes and the people that are around that. What kind of feedback are you getting from your customers with regards to the progress and the transformation that you're going through at the moment?
One of the biggest things for us was we're actually in the middle of changing our service management tool sets, and we've had many meetings with our stakeholders to actually understand what they wanted. And the biggest thing that they actually wanted was the way we actually engage with technology. Historically, it was always pick up the phone or email if you wanted anything. Well, that needed to change. You know, we're getting a changing dynamics of our staff. Our staff are getting younger. They're more digital savvy. So we really needed to improve that self-service, that self-help capability. And that's why we're moving to Remedy on Demand, because it gives us that. It's got the MyIT that allows us to get that, so customers can have that easy interface, that Amazon-like experience, actually ordering services, engaging, and looking forward to the future with the AI and the integrations, how we can use that. That seems to be the big thing for our customers.
Perfect. Thank you very much, and good luck on the journey as you go through. Ben, at the end, last but not least, thank you very much for hanging in there. Could you give a quick introduction of yourselves, what you do at Daisy?
Yeah, so I head up the OSS programs within Daisy, so that's anything from the BMC products that we consume from yourselves through to the strategy architecture, right through to the operational implementation of those in the day-to-day running for the business, engagement, rollout, everything around that.
Another big job.
It's challenging.
How would you, from a Daisy's perspective, the hybrid multi-cloud, what does that mean for you in your terms and Daisy's perspective when you look through your lens?
So from our perspective, it's very much a mixture and combination for us because we're such a diverse company and the customers we have as a managed service provider through to telco, through to development houses. It's anything from on-premise through to your private cloud infrastructures that we have within Daisy and RDCs, right through to public clouds with AWS, Azure, any others which we can fit in and customers have a need for. What that kind of falls in with us is it allows us to try and strike that balance for customers. So we have customers which wide-ranging from healthcare customers right through to development studios, and from the DevOps perspective. And what they like is, there's customers who want certain workloads and services that have to stay with on-premise. They have to be controlled and the governance around those. But then it allows us to bring that scale and speed when they want to burst out into your public clouds.
And you mentioned so many different facets there and the complexities of what you're trying to do and pull together. Could you just articulate from again, your lens of how the partnership with BMC, how collectively we've come together to help you through that complexity?
Yeah, so originally it was very much, we came from acquisition, so we had multiple technologies, very disparate and non-integrated technologies, some old, some new, didn't particularly work well together. As a start from BMC, it was around the technologies of consolidating those down, bringing it into something that gave us a faster and more efficient integration speed, lets us get to a point in the future faster than it would by doing it within the original technologies. And then it became much more than that, so the partnership became all around the services you can provide as well, the engagement, the best practice processes. And for us, it's those technologies, because they're agnostic, allow us to branch out to not just the kind of IT cloud areas, but also the telco areas, broadband, anything we deal with. Because of the diversity of the tool sets, we can, some of it's out the box from the BMC tools, but our creativity as well from our developers in-house, from our engineers, allow us to kind of branch up it, and that's what we think brings to the partnership as well from our side. And it allows us to take those processes from multiple acquisitions, multiple tool sets, consolidate those down, and where possible, we always want one single process across multiple environments, not the other way around.
And same question to you, Ben, to Paul and Joanne, because I think this is important. We're all doing it there's two sides of the coin that we have. It's like what we do in our business and to make our business grow and be profitable, but there's also our customers.
Yes.
So the journey that you're going through at the moment, what are you hearing from your customers? What's the feedback that you're getting, and maybe that next level of what next?
So we're kind of in a midway house at the moment. So we've got customers who we've delivered this for, the feedback from them is really positive. They're seeing more efficient delivery times, implementation times. They're seeing reduced speed of resolution. Customers who are in mid-flight or they're finding out about this now as well and what we're doing with BMC, and they're really wanting to get on that roadmap with us now and get on that train and follow that through. And that, it gives us an opportunity for them as well. So as we said earlier, and as we heard earlier about the vulnerabilities which are rising over the last couple of years, especially in this last year, and the change in the direction of the markets from everyone wanting it on-premise and within their own data centers or a service provider into these cloud situations and cloud platforms, it allows us for customers to have that faith in us. And they really do. We've seen that starting to come through now, where this transition and transformation has given them that faith in what we're doing, and it allows us to give them a kind of cuddle almost, to say, come with Daisy, everything's going to be okay. And it's very much allowed us to be very proactive, the new tool sets, instead of reactive. So we've gone from, WannaCry was mentioned earlier, and companies finding out they're not as protected as they think they are. Well, actually now we're ready with the tool sets for the next instance of that. And we all know there is going to be something in the future. This allows us that, and it also shows our customers that we're underpinned by enterprise-grade technology, and not just for products, it's for support and the best practice we get from
the whole experience.
Yeah, it's the whole experience with the BMC products that we get.
Perfect, thank you. I'm not too sure I've heard the word cuddle in a customer panel before, but that's great, thanks. So one of the things that I think is really important just to understand is it's not, and I'm just going to move around now, it's not easy to come up on stage and try and get, we heard 18 months, 2 years, these are long journeys that you're going through, and trying to condense a story down into a couple of minutes. So what I would ask is, we've all got stories. We're all in this room here because we're either just about to start a journey, or we're on a journey, we're on phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, whatever it is. And this is a great opportunity for come and speak to the 3 individuals here, understand a bit more, but also to connect together. There's so much that we can learn from each other about how we're starting, what we're doing, what worked, what didn't work, because we've just heard across all 3 that it's not just about the technology. The technology is a big part to this, but there's all the other pieces around that pull that together as well, because we are people businesses at the same time, and we've got to manage customers, and we've got to meet or exceed their expectations. So wherever you are on your journey, talk to each other. The great thing is we're together, we're in the room, and with BMC here, there's a couple of things that I can absolutely guarantee and promise. One, we have the experience, we have the solutions, and we also have the passion. We're here today, as Peter said, to listen, to understand, and to help you break through that journey. Like the 3 individuals here that have bravely come up and shared their story. We've all got that. Alexio, I'd like to see a whole lot more people up here willing to come and knock on the door and say, yeah, we're going to come and talk, we want to share, because we're very proud of what we've done. So have a fantastic day today. The rest of the day, I think we're going to move into the awards ceremony now. But I'd just like to say, Paul, Joanne, Ben, thank you very much indeed for coming up. Thanks. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Please welcome Calvin Gu, Vice President, Northern Europe, BMC.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, is this on? Can everybody hear me okay? So, my job is a really easy one. My job is to engage you all in celebrating success. Right? And recognizing great achievements and great outcomes and great results from adopting, deploying, and delivering value through BMC propositions. So before we start, I just want to test that everybody knows how to celebrate recognition, right? So can you all stand up? Very quickly, all stand up. And can you show me how well you can clap, right? Because this is what it's all about. Whoa! Here we go. Here we go. Okay, there we go. This is what we're looking for, right? A lot of energy in the room. So, without further ado, please all sit down. So, and I also have, like, the team have prepared a load of notes for me, right, which is in this middle screen here. But I've got some private information as well, which I will be referring to during the course of this award ceremony. And my able assistant, Michelle, to give out one of the 5 elements, right? For those who remember the film, this is our 5th element trophy. So, without further ado, I need to talk about a recognition around our security, compliance, and automation business. Now, this particular company, actually, I know them really well. I know personally the CEO of this business. And the gentleman who's going to be coming up to receive the award later has progressed through this organization. And I think, from what I understand, mainly through his personal friendship with the chairman of the company he works for. But that's, yeah, you can ask him about that during his, over lunch and something like that. However, this company, you've heard from them today. They were represented on the customs panel, so congratulations. And please, Ant, could you come up to the stage representing Daisy Group, Ant Malloy. Thank you very much. Well done. Come on, big round of applause. Fantastic, well done. Thank you, Michelle. Right, we need a picture. Right, there's a photographer somewhere.
Oh, there he is.
Okay, there we go. Congratulations, thank you. Ooh. Okay, next up we have the category of IT operations. Now, we had a bit of a shock earlier, so the gentleman who was supposed to be coming up and receiving this award, unfortunately, was called away. So we have a very kind offer from someone to stand in for him, who I'll introduce in a minute. But this gentleman represents one of the largest government departments in the UK. And probably one of the things that's so exciting about this organization is they're one of the most progressive in terms of how much they are innovating in the cloud, how much they are advancing their deployment of their different workloads into both a private or public cloud environment, which is very unusual within most of the government departments. A lot of them are quite slow to react and very much leveraging the investments in the cloud, Crown hosting services as well. So please welcome to the stage Neil Moxon from DWP. Thank you, Neil. Congratulations. Thank you, Michelle. There you go, sir. Good job. Well done. Thank you. Okay, next category is around digital automation. So, how do I describe this, this gentleman? Well, he certainly is a champion of BMCs. He's been engaged and working with us for many years. Many of you in the room actually enjoy the services that he provides in terms of their mobile app, their production of films, sports, maybe not so much the billing systems that he sends through to you, each and every one of you who use their company. But what's fantastic to know is it's our technology that is underpinning the delivery of their most innovative go-to-market, client, consumer embracing propositions. So a winner of our award, and please welcome to the stage Andy Taylor from Sky. Congratulations. Congratulations, there you go. Thanks, Michelle. There you are, Andy. Good job, thank you. Okay, now this last category is the one that I've been practicing and rehearsing about the most. And I'll explain why in a minute. However, this, again, is another government department or agency, so to speak, that have really embraced the use of our digital workplace platform and the deployment of a remedy solution into their business in a hyperscale in terms of timetable, and then developed a My IT application in 2 different languages. And that's the bit that is the challenge for me. Because if I've got my pronunciation right, I need to be saying Longi Fark Idar. I think maybe probably not very good, but our winner for this category, and by the way, in Welsh, that means congratulations. Please welcome to the stage Karen Fullerton from the Welsh Government. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you very much. We need to get you a microphone, and you can say it. Yeah. Well done indeed. Thank you. Right, our final category is the overall Transformational Innovator of the Year award. But what I'd like to do is ask a colleague to the stage. Please welcome our Executive President of Global Sales and Marketing, Dan Streetman.
Round of applause. I appreciate the energy. This is important for us. This is a chance for us to recognize all of you in the room by actually bringing up a customer that really has transformationally innovated around what they deliver. The great part is we got to hear from this customer a little bit already, but just share a little bit of a background just to understand what we're facing. Just last year, get your head around this, 5 new malware variants were identified every second. Every second, there were 5 new variants of malware introduced. And this innovative company understands that it's not just the threat, but how you respond to it that matters the most. They've got operations in over 180 countries, supporting some of the largest organizations in the world. So it's a great pleasure for me to announce and share a video from our Innovator of the Year, BT. So please join me in congratulating Mr. Paul Ryder.
Paul, congratulations.
So clearly, as you heard today, Paul is an innovator. Paul has done some amazing things at BT. I encourage you to actually follow him on LinkedIn or follow BT on Twitter. Paul's published some amazing things about network service operations and everything we're doing. We really appreciate your partnership, and it's a real pleasure. Anything you'd like to share today, Paul?
I would like to call out, actually, in doing what we've done in terms of integrating the cyber and ITSM worlds, we've had some really great support from BMC, both in terms of technically how we do it, but also standing alongside us with our customers, convincing our customers that what we're doing was the right thing in the right way. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Paul. Congratulations.
It's right here. Okay, thank you very much.
In my pocket. Would you like me to take it out for you? There you
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dan. Thanks, everybody, and congratulations to all our award winners again. Okay, so Kerry, how was that? Have I caught up in time? Is that good? Excellent, thank you. Okay, so my job now is to introduce you to our guest speaker. So again, I've got some notes that the marketing team have put together, but I did my own research on our speaker, Ben. Congratulations to your wife, Alexis, by the way. So this man used to be a reporter for the Times. He used to report on the internet for the Times. And I think up until 2013, he used to be the advisor and ambassador for Tech City in London to the Prime Minister, which is, again, something to be very proud about. But the one I loved the most is that actually he is the trustee of the London chapter of the Awesome Foundation. So, Ben, the awesome Ben Hammersley, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I am indeed a trustee of the Awesome Foundation. I wasn't expecting that one. We give £1,000 every few months out to people who apply. The only criteria is the thing they have to apply for the money for has to be awesome. Anyway, doesn't matter. What I do most of the time when I'm not doing stupid things like that is that I am now a futurist. So I work with large corporations, and I work with governments and militaries around the world as a professional futurist. So my job is to live a couple of years in the future and then come back and tell everybody all about it. Now, one of the things you might not know, if you're not also a futurist, is that in February next year, PowerPoint is going to be made a war crime. And so I don't have any slides. I'm just going to sort of talk to you. One of the things that, as I was preparing for this conference, and as I've been here this morning, one of the things that sort of really cheered me up is realizing that everybody in this room is very technically competent. And that's kind of very unusual for me. The vast majority of the time, specifically this year, I've spent dealing with financial services industries, mostly banks and so on. And so that's meant standing in front of a room like this, in fact, sometimes this very room, with lots of old white dudes in suits, so a bit like this. But they're the sort of people who have their emails printed out for them. And as a futurist, that's a real problem, because I try and tell people about what the life's going to be like in the future, whereas they are currently living in about 1986. And that's an issue, right, for really all of us, that although it is 2017, many people and many organizations don't live in 2017. Many organizations are still in 2010 or 2005 or 1996 or something like that. Many organizations, for example, want me to communicate with them via a fax machine, which is about as useful as wanting a pigeon or a street urchin. Like, who has a fax machine nowadays? And so, as a futurist, this is a big problem, and as a technologist, this is a problem. Now, as has been said, I've been reporting and writing and working in the internet space for almost exactly 20 years now, and advising companies and advising organizations on the next generation of technologies that's coming in has become increasingly difficult. This is because every few years, as everybody here understands, we reach a new level. We sort of level up. We reach a tipping point of new capabilities. And the increase in those capabilities and the speed at which those new capabilities arrive has been getting faster and faster and faster. I live in Los Angeles, and just up the street from me, literally a couple of, half a mile up the road from me, is the Rand Corporation. And the Rand Corporation were the people who really invented futurism. They sort of invented my job. And when they invented it in the 1960s, they had what they called a planning horizon. How far in the future you can look and think about the world of about 20 years. When they were doing national defense and national security, they would be able to make predictions that would still be true, roughly, in 20 years' time. Is there anybody in this room, however, who could make technological predictions that will still be true in 20 years' time? Absolutely not. Would they still be true in 10 years' time? No. Is anybody here willing to make a prediction that will still be true in 5 years' time? To be honest, probably not either. That prediction horizon is getting closer and closer and closer. And so for futurists and for technologists, this is an incredibly difficult thing to do. Now, why is this? Why do we have this sort of exponential growth in capability? What's going on? Well, if I was standing in front of a non-technical audience right now, I would be explaining to them the concept of Moore's law. You all know this, right? In 1964, Gordon Moore, co-founder of Intel, he writes a magazine article in the US where he points out that there's been this interesting phenomenon that every year, for a given price, the number of components that they can fit onto an integrated circuit has doubled. And it was true in the 60s, and they revisited it in the 70s, and it was true then, and it's true in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. It's still true today. We think it will continue to be true for at least a few more years yet, which is roughly every year for the same amount of money, computing power doubles. Now, everybody knows that. Moore's Law, right? It's the phenomenon that we all have, that every September, the CEO of Apple can stand on a stage like this and make the phone in your pocket a bit shit, right? We all know that, right? But it's not just processing power that doubles in capability. Every aspect of technology sort of doubles in capability roughly every year, whether you're talking about bandwidth or screen resolution or the cost of storage or all of these things. We have this doubling and doubling of power. And that doubling, that exponential growth, is incredibly difficult to explain to normal people, right? Going from 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32 to 64 to 128 and so on and so on and so on is a very, very weird thing for people to understand. You know, if you say to somebody, well, how do I explain this to you? The computer that you have on your desk when you start your job, let's imagine that's, you know, has a processing power of 1, and after 20 years, that same computer will have a processing power of a couple of million, like, brain explode. And that's a real problem. That's a huge problem, I would say, for institutions and for everybody in this room. Because increasingly, as CIOs and as technologists and so on, our job is to explain to everybody else within inside an organization not just the technology that you have today, but the technology that you're going to have in the next few years. As the vast majority of businesses become data-driven, technology-led businesses, it's the leaders of the technology function who are actually de facto leaders of the business. In a very true sense, right? In a very sort of moral sense. You have to be the people who are leading everybody else into the future by showing them what that future consists of, what capabilities are available now, what things are about to happen. And you're doing it increasingly to people who are a little bit confused even by the present, never mind the future. And the more incumbent an organization is, the more entrenched it is, generally the older it is, the more difficult that transformation is. As was said earlier, I used to be the Prime Minister's ambassador to Tech City, which is a very weird job title. It involves having a micro scooter with a flag in the front. It's quite cool. Sort of like hipster thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And that was a very, very frustrating job, because I was advising cabinet ministers and so on, who are very precisely the sort of people who have their emails printed out for them onto vellum. So talking to them about malware or e-commerce or anything like that, it's like talking to an alien. There's no real point in having that conversation. In fact, actually, as an aside, has anybody here been to Estonia? If you want to see a really, really amazing digital society, the Estonians, oddly enough, are probably the most advanced in the world. They have an incredibly efficient digital government. It's very, very interesting. Google it later. It's incredibly sophisticated. And because Estonia is basically only about 10 people, it's very easy to contact the digital government team. You literally just, like, you can tweet at them and they'll call you back, right? And so I went to Estonia and met with the government CIO and the president, like all of Estonia. And they said to me, they said, look, we get visitors all the time. This is a thing. People come and see us, and we've realized that we have to instigate a special technique. I'm like, really? What's that? And they said, well, we pre-screen them on the phone. So when a national delegation calls us, we ask them some technical questions, and then we have 2 teams of meeters and greeters at the airport. We have the real one, which is like the government CIO and all those people, and then we have a fake one. And we don't tell people this, but if the government, if the national government who's coming in, if they fail the test on the phone, we send the fake team, because there are some other countries who are so technically unsophisticated that they won't understand us if we have the meeting with them. So we send some junior people who sort of bullshit at them for a couple of days and send them off happy. Now that's fine if you're the Estonian government, but you guys can't do that because they're your bosses and stuff that we're talking about. Well, I mean, I suppose you could. I mean, that'd be pretty cool. But nevertheless, it's a real problem. And so communicating what new technologies are available is going to be a real issue. And it becomes a real issue because not understanding new and incoming technologies is an existential risk to most businesses, increasingly so, in fact. Not being able to get across to people, to senior management and so on, precisely what it is that's coming down the line really opens up that whole company, opens up that whole organization to a genuine threat. The most dangerous threat is seeing a technology that isn't very good and dismissing it. You may have seen this yourself, that you see something that might be a rival to you, that might cause you trouble, but it's a bit rubbish, and so you ignore it. And that's a fundamentally dangerous thing to do. It's the mistake I call the Kodak mistake. You may be aware of this story. 1978, one of the engineers at Kodak goes to the Kodak board meeting with the world's first digital camera. Kodak invented the digital camera. And it's about the size of a filing cabinet. It's about this big. And it takes one picture of 0.1 megapixels. So the same resolution as my shirt, right? And it takes 7 minutes to save the image, and it saves it onto audio cassette tape. If there's anybody under the age of about 30 sat next to you, just tell them what that is. Right? It takes one image, right? And then to look at that image, you then have to put it into another machine, and it takes another 7 minutes to load the data back up, and it shows it onto a TV. So it's generally a bit rubbish. And the board of Kodak said, well, yeah, the thing is, that's terrible, isn't it? I mean, we make Kodachrome, and Kodachrome is the most beautiful photographic film in the history of the world. You know, Paul Simon wrote a song about it. It's pretty awesome, and we make a lot of money from this stuff. And this thing, this digital camera, is terrible, so we're not going to fund it anymore. And so they killed the project. And they were probably right to do so, because in 1978, digital photography was terrible. And it was still terrible in 1984. And in 1988, it was still pretty terrible. But they'd forgotten the Moore's Law thing. They'd forgotten that doubling and doubling of capability that we get every year, not just in processor, but also in CCD chip design and storage and so on. And so over the next few years, the technology got better and better and better until when I started working for the Times in '97, I wrote an article saying, is next year the year that digital photography will be available to the masses? And in 1998, I wrote a digital camera roundup, which was, you know, these are the really expensive things that rich people are buying, but, you know, kind of cool. 480 by 360 pixels, woo. And in 1999, I wrote a piece for the Times, which was the digital camera roundup. Handy digital cameras you'll be taking on holiday. And in 2007, when the iPhone came out, more photographs were taken on the iPhone in its first year of release than had been taken in all of human history ever since before that, on any device. In 2012, the very same week that Kodak went bankrupt, having not touched digital photography at all, Instagram, which is the app which you may remember is designed to take pictures that look like old Kodak film, was sold to Facebook for $1 billion. They had 8 employees. Kodak fucked up. And why? Well, because they saw a digital rival, something that might break their business, and they've gone, yeah, but it's terrible. And they'd forgotten about that constant doubling and doubling and doubling of capability. And nobody in their technical office had been able to tell the board, look, it might be rubbish now, but it's going to kill us down the line. Now, we can learn from that example, and we can learn from all the other examples, the examples of the travel industry and the music industry and the movie industry and all those things. We can learn from those examples to give ourselves the language that we need to be able to discuss this constant and fantastic increase in stuff we can do with technology every year to the rest of the organizations that we serve. That, I would say, is increasingly the role of the senior technologists. It's not to design networks or anything like that, but instead is to communicate the possibilities. And that is something of an issue in and of itself. How do we do this? How do we become better as people at explaining what this technology does and what the possibilities are? How do we become better futurists? How do we become better technologists in the wider, more poetic sense? If it's so important to do so. Well, I think the most important thing, and like I say, I live in Los Angeles, so I may have become slightly hippie-ish in my old age. But the most important thing is to be mindful. I don't mean sort of do yoga on the beach, although I would recommend it. Sand gets everywhere, though, so I don't recommend that much. But become mindful of your use of technology. Not just at work, but at home and around the world as you go about your daily business. Become mindful of all of the things that are now possible at every level of your life. I did this the other day, and so I wrote it down because sometimes it's very difficult to see something that you do every day. This is a couple of days ago, right? So I was woken up by the alarm on my watch. Now this is an Apple Watch 3 that has a heart rate sensor in it. And the heart rate sensor in this is very, very, very sensitive. And so it can tell the different stages of sleep that I'm in. And so the alarm woke me up when it had detected that I wasn't in deep sleep, that I was at a nice bit of sleep. So when it woke me up, it would be a gentle awakening rather than like, ah! So the artificial intelligence sort of thing on my wrist woke me up gently, about 6 o'clock in the morning. And because of the latest research into the effects of blue light and screens on your sleep rhythm, because I'm perpetually jet-lagged, I don't have any other devices in my bedroom. They're all in the kitchen. They're all charging in the kitchen. And so I got out of bed and I walked to the kitchen where my phone was. And as I was walking towards my phone, I got within Bluetooth range of it. And the heart rate data from this watch and this activity tracker here was transmitted out over to that phone and went up to the cloud for processing. As I walk into the kitchen, I have a desk lamp on the kitchen table, which is glowing red because it had detected an email in my inbox from one of my sort of VIP senders. So I knew there was an urgent email in my inbox. And I'd set it up using a web service to turn that light on into a nice red color to show me that there was an important email waiting for me. I go and put the kettle on, and I asked my Amazon Echo what the news and the weather was, and what I was doing, what my first appointment was, and what the traffic was like between here and there. I have an Echo Show, which is one of the ones with a screen, and I asked it to show me the picture from the front door camera that I've got set up, and I could see that from the front door camera, I could see that Amazon had delivered my groceries that I'd ordered the night before when I realized I'd run out of milk. And so I went and I got the groceries, and I brought them inside. And as I'm drinking the coffee that I'm making, the data from my activity tracker that had gone up to the cloud about 20 minutes before. It came back down again and told me how recovered I was from the long run that I went on the day before. And posted all of that data into the health apps that I had on my phone. And I'm drinking the coffee and I'm looking at my personal Slack channel, and I've got lots of different bots pulling in data from different news sites and so on and giving me a summary of the day's news. Then I could hear my daughter waking up. She's 3 years old, and so she lives in a world filled with robots. She doesn't notice the difference between any of these things. And so I told the television to turn the lights on because, you know. And then I realized, when the lights came on, I saw that the floor was really dirty because I have a dog and a 3-year-old daughter, and stuff gets everywhere. And so I got the robot vacuum cleaner down, and I set the robot vacuum cleaner off, and then I walked in its way, and I apologized to it because I'm British. Anyway, we got dressed and everything, and then then an alarm went off on my watch, which was an app called Dark Sky, which links to the local weather radars, and told me that it was going to start raining in precisely 18 minutes' time. It would rain for about 11 minutes. And that was precisely in the middle of the school run. And so I got a raincoat out, even though I live in Los Angeles, and it's a bit weird that it was raining, but nevertheless I got a raincoat out and put on the raincoat, put a raincoat on my kid, and put the kid in the front of the bicycle, and we cycled up the beach. And I dropped the kid off at school just as it stopped raining. Then I had a meeting. I knew I had a meeting in Santa Monica, just up the road from me. So I cycled up the road, and as I'm going up the road, I parked the bike into the bike's parking spot. And I'm early for my meeting, and I want a coffee, so I go onto my Starbucks app and I pre-order a coffee. And I realize the Starbucks that I pre-ordered it from is a little bit further away than than I can walk in the time that I have allotted. And so right next to me is a small electric scooter. I see a small electric scooter leaning up against a tree next to me where I'm standing. And it's this new company that enables you to, it's like a dockless Boris bike, but electric. And so I took the app from my phone and I unlocked the electric scooter and I got on it and I scooted about a mile up the road and picked up my coffee, which was waiting for me when I got to the Starbucks. And then I scooted back and I went to my meeting and my day went on. Now, all of the things that I've just gone through, and that was a genuine day, that was 2 days ago. Not 2 days, it was a Friday. It was a genuine day. All of those things that I've explained are not unusual. It's not I'm not living in the future. I'm not like living on a space station. I'm not going out for a spacewalk. I'm just going about my day. I'm finding out what I'm doing. I'm checking out the news. I'm taking my kid to school. I'm going and buying a coffee. I'm going to my meetings. But at every single point of that, every single interaction I had with the world, it turned out was technologically driven. By about 9 o'clock in the morning, I had accessed weather satellites. I'd accessed about 3 or 4 different artificial intelligences, 2 or 3 different voice-activated services, a whole load of bots in my own personal Slack channel. I'd ordered stuff remotely. I got into all these different things. And every day, every week, every month, every year, more and more of those services are being layered onto our lives. As a futurist, I'm asked to write future scenarios all the time, and people are sometimes a little bit disappointed that the future scenario that I write them isn't Blade Runner. People like the rain for some reason, right? But it isn't Blade Runner. It's not like, yes, well, in 2019, there will be flying cars, and we'll live in domed cities, and we'll have sex bots. Instead, what we realize, and especially we realize here in London, is the future is a gradual layering on of new technologies over the top of the old stuff. And it's incredibly important to pay constant attention to those technologies as they come in. The reason we have to pay attention to this is because it's the first stage in what I believe is the only strategy, the only viable strategy for keeping your business, your organization at the forefront of the technological revolution. The only viable strategy, I believe, is one called constant legacy-free reinvention. This is how it works. Like I say, you pay attention to everything you do throughout the day. How you use technology and what problems you're trying to solve. And every so often, on a regular basis, you look at every single problem you're trying to solve in your business, or whether that's attracting new customers or just fulfilling a little bit of your internal bureaucracy, whatever that problem is, and ask yourself, if I was to do this for the first time today, using modern technologies, how would I do it? If I was to do this for the first time today, using modern technologies, how would I do it? And then instigate that system. It's only through this mindful application of new technologies in thin layers on a regular basis that large organizations, or even small organizations, or even individuals, can stay at the forefront of this technological revolution. And as I say, this begins from a place of mindfulness. Now, you might be saying, yeah, okay, fine, but, you know, we're IT directors and we sign big contracts. And we have these purchasing cycles, and we have business models, and we have 6-month and 2-year and 5-year cycles to go through. And there's really no comparison between innovating the way that you buy coffee and the way that we run our email infrastructure, you know, or innovating the way that you find out if it's going to rain or not. I mean, look out the window, Ben, seriously. And how we do our entire CRM system for our 10,000-person organization. You are right. Seen at that scale, you're absolutely right. It is a ridiculous thing to say, for me to say, that you should be paying constant attention to the problems that you're solving and trying to innovate on a daily basis by introducing new systems as quickly and as early as possible in that layering method. However, your organizations live in the modern day. Whether your systems and whether your institutional way of doing business is in 2017, your employees are in 2017. And your employees are all looking at the world. And they're realizing that the next few years are going to be incredibly weird and incredibly challenging. At every level of employment, from blue collar to white collar to black collar creatives, at every level of employment, individual tasks and whole jobs are being taken by systems, are being taken by artificial intelligences. As I said right at the beginning of this, I spend the vast majority of my time speaking to financial services industries this year because the vast majority of bankers, insurance people, certainly fund managers, all of them are really looking down the barrel of a gun. If you're in the fund management business, if you work in the city and your job is to just choose stocks and shares, you probably have about 2 or 3 years left in your job. Because we've realized that AIs are way better at doing that than humans are. And it's only really out of politeness that the banks aren't just laying everybody off today. And so those people are scrambling around for something else to do, just as truck drivers and taxi drivers should be today as well. For example, it was announced yesterday that Frigidaire, who make big American fridges, they've been delivering fridges in big trucks from their factory in Texas to their distribution point in California by self-driving truck for the past 3 months. They announced it yesterday because they have a results call or something. But there are self-driving trucks now delivering real fridges on American roads. Budweiser are delivering beer from their bottling plant to their distribution plant in Chicago. They've been doing that with self-driving trucks since February. We're seeing this onslaught of AI and new technologies coming on that are going to take tasks from people and take whole jobs from people. And so your employees are looking at this technology and going, well, even though my company currently lives technologically in 2012, and even though my boss has his emails printed out for him by his secretary, and probably wouldn't know what AI was even if it came around and tried to kill him like the Terminator, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's an oncoming train. And so your employees are applying this innovation model themselves. They're looking at all of the tasks that they have to do during the day, and they're going out and finding their own systems, finding their own cheats, their own technologies to take the strain off the work that they have to do, to make them more efficient, to do, as has been promised by all of these technologies, to give them superpowers in order to be able to stay in the job market, in order to be able to fulfill their roles and not be the first people to be fired as soon as the boss understands what technology is about to arrive. And so as technologists, we face a very interesting challenge over the next few years. We understand that there's a whole new generation of stuff with these new and increased capabilities coming along which are going to start challenging people's work. And we also understand that the organizations that we work for and the systems that we've had to build within the political environment of the organizations we work for aren't necessarily matched up with those two things. And we're also beginning to realize that the employees that we work with are starting to freak out and are using their own stuff. I did some work a few years ago for the Foreign Office, and it was a piece of work looking at how information from the intelligence agencies flowed through the organization. And one of the things that we realized was that nobody was checking their classified email, because it was a pain in the ass to do so. You have to lock your system down and go to a secret room and unlock the thing and put in your passwords, and nobody could remember the passwords, and you weren't allowed to write them down and all this sort of stuff. And so nobody checked their classified email. But as part of that process, I asked people, because I was an external contractor, I was able to ask people questions which they wouldn't want to tell people internally. And one of the questions that I asked all of these embassies around the world, I said, so, is anybody here using an email system that's not the official one? All of them were. We had embassies around the world who were running their internal communications on Facebook, people who had internal Yahoo groups, people who had off-brand Slack channels. At the same time, I was doing some work at the BBC Research and Development, New Media Research and Development Lab, who were so annoyed by their internal network being locked down that they did a deal, the engineers did a deal with the company that lived in the building across the street, and they strung some Cat5 cable across Regent Street to get unrestricted internet access without a firewall on it. And they only found out because their network went down globally, and the systems engineer came up to the room and said, "I'm sorry, guys, that your network's down." And everybody went, "Oh, fuck, yeah, you're right." Yes. Yes, it's always terrible. Yes, can you bring it back up, please? People are using off-label stuff. And they're going to use more and more off-label stuff because they want to save their jobs, and they want to save their jobs against this newer stuff that's coming down the road. So this is the challenge. You have to be not the old IT departments, the IT departments of old whose job was principally to say no. Can't do that. It's against policy. For lots of different reasons. But your main job now is to say yes, absolutely. And not only are we going to let you do that, but I want to take what you're doing and I want to roll it out across everybody. We want to facilitate these new superpowers, get them into the hands of everybody as fast as possible, and do it in a way which is secure and safe and fulfills business strategy and enables you to communicate that innovation, not just to everybody else underneath you, but all the people above you as well. We're at a particularly delicate time in technology today. That Kodak moment, that technology that's coming down the line, that if we don't take it seriously will destroy us, that Kodak moment is about to happen to pretty much every knowledge-based industry, every data-driven business. The AI and machine learning and all of that stuff that we can see coming down the line might not be particularly brilliant today, in your opinion. But next year it'll be twice as good, and the year after that it'll be twice as good, and the year after that it'll be twice as good again. And so some point very, very soon, you are going to have to step up to be not just technologists, but the strategic leaders of your organizations. And you have to lead in both directions. You have to educate the boards and the people above you, but you also have to go along with all of the employees beneath you, all of whom right now, probably this very day, are looking around the marketplace for those tools which will give them the edge in the world where they are suddenly realizing that their jobs are on the line. How you balance those two needs, the upwards and the downwards, is really the challenge for the next few years. But that is really the thing that we face. I believe the only way that we can solve that problem is by being incredibly mindful in the things that we do with technology, not just at work, but at home and in the rest of our lives, and applying the learnings that you get from that mindfulness to everything that you do and everything you make available. If you get that right, you're guaranteed a constant success over the next few years. If you get it wrong, well, then you'll be remembered just as Kodak is remembered. Barely, and only by old people. Thank you very much. I have time for questions.
Thanks, Ben. Can you take a couple of questions? Yeah. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Ben, for a really interesting, really riveting presentation. Thanks for that. We're going to take a couple of questions. If anybody would like to ask Ben a question, he's rushing off to make a flight, but I think he's got time for a couple.
Thanks.
Any questions on the floor?
Over there.
How do you charge your Apple Watch if you're waking up with its alarm in the morning?
Well, that's a good question. The Apple Watch 3 doesn't really need that much charging, and so it takes like an hour, and so I charge it at night when I'm having dinner. With that bombshell. But the magnetic, I haven't got the magnetic one yet because I'm waiting for the dual device magnetic thing that Apple are bringing out in January. And I literally, just before I came on stage, got the email saying that my iPhone 10 is has been shipped. So I'm very excited. It's also the first phone I've ever bought. I've actually pre-ordered the case for. It's like it's like the most expensive phone in the universe if you drop it. And the other, and yes, I went to the local replacey screeny people. I went there that I use all the time. I went to see them the other day, because I have a daughter and Peppa Pig, fuck it, right? And I said, like, how much money have I spent with you? And the guy went, it's up to $2,000. I'm like, so, buy a case. There was a question over here. Microphone.
You said you were speaking to governments and stuff about future technologies and how they're going to impact life. So are they thinking ahead to when people are all redundant and they're not able to get work?
Governments.
Lower skilled people, and how they're going to, are they beginning to plan about how they're going to, okay. I think that answers you.
Some are. So are governments beginning to plan about the time when we have mass? Yes, some. So there's some interesting. It's a really good question, right? It's actually it is kind of. I get asked this question a lot, and usually by very senior, very wealthy people. If you ever want to get people in Goldman Sachs to want to join a union, just tell them about AI, and within about 10 minutes they're like, I want to be in the TUC. It's amazing. If only we had some form of collective action. Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah. The answer to that question is not, yes, not really. Some countries are looking at this very, very seriously, and they're doing experiments with things like universal basic income, for example. So Finland is doing one. Iceland is doing one. There are some states in America that are starting very seriously to look at it, with the idea that you really have to have a safety net, a very, very solid safety net for that transitional period. It's not the first, this is genuinely not the first time that modern Western economies have gone through a period where a whole swathe of, people have had to shift their careers. The invention of the motor car, for example. If you think about all of the secondary and tertiary industries around that were destroyed when the motor car was invented, right? If you think about all of the horses that were in London, so you had the farriers, you had the saddle makers, you had the shit shovelers, you had all these people, right? The people who grew hay, and stable makers and stable lads and all that sort of stuff. And they was, in a very, very short period of time, were all made redundant, effectively, by the invention of the motor car. And we had to do something else with those people. Now, historically, what we did is we sent them to the trenches in World War I, and they all died. And then the Spanish flu helped as well. So that was a thing, sure. We might be, that might be the plan. You never can tell. Like I said, I live on the West Coast, so the first thing, literally, I didn't say it earlier, but the first thing, the reason I go to the kitchen, the reason my phone is in the kitchen rather than in my bedroom is because it was doing my head in that every morning I would wake up and the first thing I'd do was check Twitter to make sure I wasn't dead yet, Has he started a war? Oh, what is it? What? He said what? Oh, fuck. Right? So that's why the phone is like a calming walk away from my bedroom. So I think there are definitely some sort of quasi-socialist things in place, and I think that that's becoming increasingly socially acceptable. And there's a notion called the Overton window, which is the things that it's socially acceptable to talk about politically. And that is shifting very much towards things like universal basic income and stuff that 5 or 10 years ago nobody serious quotes was talking about, but now is a very genuine thing. But also, I think we have to notice that there are various other very big problems that we have to solve. Climate change being a particularly pressing one, and alternative energies and so on, and health problems as well with the aging population. And so there's plenty of stuff to do. It's not as if, this room full of highly intelligent and very good-looking people are going to be without things to do. It might not necessarily be the thing you're doing today. You might find yourself in 5 or 10 years' time becoming experts in solar panels or vaccinations or flood control or all three, as opposed to the stuff you do today. But that's cool, because there's a lot of work in that, because we're all about to drown. I mean, the Dutch, you should go to Holland and just learn how to dig ditches and build dams. What am I encouraging my 3-year-old to do? So this is, I think, the most important thing for education, especially for young people. There was this fashion that went around, which was, we've got to teach kids to code, which was absolutely transparently a way for large IT companies to get lots and lots of cheap JavaScript programmers. Like, there was no real long-term pedagogic value in JavaScript for 15-year-olds. Other than that, we needed a shit ton of JavaScript coders at that time. What I think is more important, actually, is more of a metacognition thing, which is you should teaching kids how to learn. Because one of the most pressingly obvious things that I think has changed over the past 20 years and is accelerating in its change is that in the olden days, as it were, you would, like my parents' generation, they would go to school and go to university or technical college or whatever. They would learn a trade, and then they would go and do that trade forever, and then they would get a gold watch. They'd garden for a few years, then they'd die of boredom, right? Effectively the thing, right? So whether if you were, you'd be an engineer or something like that, or if you were some sort of executive, you go and join the Marks and Spencer's trainee scheme, and then you work your way up, and you become a regional manager in Stoke-on-Trent, and then, and it would be a life of glamour and middle classness. Awesome. Now, what we know today, however, is that idea of working for the same company for 30 or 40 years, or even being in the same trade for 30 or 40 years, is bizarre and weird, and totally very, very unlikely. And if you ever meet people who've worked for the same company for 30 or 40 years, some of you are nodding, but if you ever meet people who've worked for the same company for 30 or 40 years, they're a bit strange. Because it's like they're part of a different nation, right? And like I say, financial services companies, you get that all the time. I think of some of the big 5 accounting firms where they get posted to different countries every 5 years or so, and it's like being in the army. And those people are deeply unusual compared to the rest of us. And so I think that the most important thing is to teach your children how to learn new skills, how to reassess what the world is, as opposed to saying, as we do here in the UK, right, you're 16, congratulations, you're old enough now to have a crafty pint and buy cigarettes, whatever, and also you have to choose your career focus for the rest of your life today. Well done. That's just completely unrealistic. Not only from it's asking a 16-year-old to make that decision is crazy, but also from just the way the world is evolving. I would make a guess that literally everybody in this room is doing a job today which didn't exist, nor could have existed 3 years ago. And certainly if you go out to Shoreditch and sort of those sorts of more hipstery tech places, they're all doing stuff where if you went back 5 years, even the technologies they're working on didn't exist. The number of people I know who are sort of social media managers or virtual reality gaming architects or blah, 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 all those different things. Jobs that didn't even exist 3 or 4 years ago. And so you couldn't have gone to school to learn it. You couldn't even gone to school to learn the basics of the thing. So instead, they should have, in an ideal world, they should have gone to school just to learn the techniques of learning. And that metacognition is a genuine skill and something that should be taught and is something that everybody needs to pay attention to. I think I have time for one more quick question. Okay, very quickly, anybody? Just there. So the question was, I was talking about change being driven from the bottom up, and the thing is, what happens if you try and give them something and they say, no, we're not dealing with it? Resign. I mean, at the end of the day, right, it's a journey of everybody in the organization has to be on the same journey. And in my experience, usually the blockers are in middle management, but if the blockers are at the bottom, if the actual people are just saying, oh, we're not doing this because, well, sell your stock, leave, talk to everybody around here. Has anybody else got nice employees? This man needs a new job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. Right, just three quick slides between you and lunch, so this will be very, very quick. I hope you've enjoyed the morning session. It's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it myself, and we ask you to stay for the afternoon. We've got some tracks, 4 tracks, that you're welcome to join, and you can join part of one and go to another one later on if you want to, so feel free to mingle what you're doing there. So I'm not going to read out all of the information on the slide. You can see the customers, partners, and analysts who are involved in each of these 4 tracks. The one thing to be aware of is that the first one of these, digital service management, is in this room. I think I've got that correct. It's in this room. And then the other 3 are one level up from here. Okay? It's that simple. So it should be reasonably simple to find where you're going. Okay, then after that, if you've still got some energy and you're still here, we will have some networking, an opportunity just for some final networking. And the fellow that you see on the screen there is a chap called Titan, who's a 7-foot-tall robot, apparently. So you might notice him wandering around, but please feel free to stay for some food and some drink at the end of the day. And then last but not least, there is a questionnaire or an evaluation for you to fill in. You can either fill it in on paper if you want to, or you can be digital and do it on the app. So you've got a choice, but there's 4 of these things to win, apparently. You have to actually go to one of the tracks to have a chance of winning it. I don't think there's self-flying. I think you have to fly them, but you can win one of these. There's 4 of them to win. So please avail yourself of that opportunity if you can. Okay, that's it. We're breaking for lunch. Thank you very much, everyone.